Douluo, Wuhan Black Turtle. Anti-armor critical attack at the beginning. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201. Quick, sit cross-legged, follow my guidance to condense the vortex of fighting, and step into the realm of a fighter. Huang Wei said. Yafei regained consciousness. A rosy little face, a charming little goblin. Not caring about the clothes on his body. He quickly sat cross-legged and started working. Huang Wei's fingers slid across her skin. Draw the opponent's fighting spirit to the dancing. Yafei just started to use her fighting spirit to follow. It doesn't take a while. In the dancing, the wisps of fighting energy that were constantly gathering formed a cyclone. A ray of light rose up. Yafei successfully broke through to the one-star fighter. After the breath has stabilized. Yafei opened her eyes with excitement on her face. I broke through the fighting spirit and reached the level of a fighter. Thank you, husband. Turning around, her delicate body fell directly into Huang Wei's arms. The latter puts the clothes on. The other said, it's not over yet. There is another pill here. In his hand, what appeared was Peyuandan. This Peyuandan is very rich in medicinal materials. By pairing it with various parameters in the super energy laboratory, the best ones are selected and the bad ones are eliminated. Take one in your belly and you will be sure to ascend to heaven and experience bliss. Wow. It smells so good. What kind of elixir is this? The slave family has never seen it before. Yafei was excited and curious, looking forward to it. Huang Wei smiled slightly and said, this is the Peyuan pill. It was specially refined for you by my husband. If you eat it, it will change your current physique and cultivation talent, so that your cultivation will be smooth from now on. The elixir arrived in front of Yafei's mouth. Come on, eat it. Yap. Fei opened her pink lips and swallowed the Peyuan pill. Melts in your mouth. A stream of air instantly entered her body. 1.2, 2.3. 3.4, one after another differentiated air currents with strong medicinal power. It flows into every part of the body. Soon, a light shone. Then an unpleasant stench spread from Yafei's body. Black lumps of disgust appeared on his skin one after another. Yafei was shocked. I was vomited by the stink. Go suck it now. Huang Wei smiled and said that he could hold his breath. So you can't smell each other's odor. Yafei's pretty face turned red and she was extremely shy. Turn around and leave. There was only one person left in the room. It's time to get down to business. Huang Wei muttered. He walked out of the room. At this moment Gu and I came over. In the corridor ahead, there are visiting gifts sent by various large and small forces in Wutan City. As soon as Huang Wei thought about it, he knew what was inside. He raised his hand and handed it all to Gu and I, saying, give it all to my wife Yafei, madam. Ah yes. Gu and I was stunned for a moment, then immediately understood and smiled even more. Their Mittelbounder young Daozang. The background behind this person is definitely not simple. This time it really happened. Huang Wei came to the backyard and took a stroll. At the same time, he was also looking for a godhead suitable for Yafei in his mind. Of course, there is also the amethyst winged lion king. As he absorbed and refined the center of the god realm, I also felt that it belonged to the fallen god of element. Where is the god of gold? It just so happens that Yafei will be a super expert in business in the future, and she will also be called the queen of gold. He would just spend a little effort to summon this godhead. All gods come from the center of the divine world. Now he uses a ray of strength. The golden godhead that fell somewhere in the Douluo universe was pulled. A golden light shines brightly. The next moment, like a lost child, he flew quickly towards his mother's arms. The speed exceeds light years. In an instant, a golden godhead appeared in Huang Wei's hand. There is only one gold letter on it. This is one of the main gods, a first level god. Yafei's figure appeared in the corridor of the courtyard. Under sunlight. At this moment, she had finished bathing, and her skin was smoother. The whole body exudes a more charming body fragrance. She was already charming and alluring now. Husband, you are back. Yap. Fei held a small cat tail leaf fan and walked to Huang Wei. Hey, what is this? She looked at the golden thing in the man's hand in front of her with curiosity. Huang Wei's tone was calm. This is the godhead, one of the main gods of the element, the godhead of the golden god. The main god of element. What is the golden god? Although what he said was serious, Yafei, who had never been in contact with these strangers, was completely confused. A power that is not of this world. It's normal that you don't know now, but you will know soon. It can give you a different kind of power, so take the exam well. Huang Wei said, a little bit on his finger. The god of gold transformed into a beam of light. Enter the body directly from Yafei's eyebrows. Yafei soon saw a golden world. There is also a strange golden figure. Congratulations, lucky one, for getting my inheritance. The 9th examination of the golden god starts. In her mind, a strange female voice sounded at the same time. A golden pattern appeared on Yafei's forehead. Very beautiful. It gave Yafei an inexplicable charm as a whole. Okay, now I'm leaving Wutan City and going to the imperial capital. You going to stay or come with me? Huang Wei asked. Yafei said, I will stay here. Huang Wei nodded and said nothing more. If you are in danger, communicate with the golden godhead, and I will know and come to you as soon as possible. Huang Wei stared. Husband. Yafei understands. She nodded. Huang Wei soared into the sky. A space-time rift appeared in the sky, and the amethyst-winged Lion King emerged from it. Go to the holy city of Gamma. Huang Wei patted the other person's neck. Yes, the appearance of the amethyst-winged Lion King once again caused panic in Wutan City. But the next moment he saw the other party flying away at high speed. Then he breathed a sigh of relief. Who are you exactly? A pretty figure stood on the house. Guzuna, whose eyes were on fire, murmured. Seeing the other party leave, she was completely relieved. Chapter 202. Ling Ying has already passed the news back to the ancient clan through some means. The ancient clan's reply was, the ancient clan is not easy to expose. If the other party has no malicious intent, just observe. Their words are indeed good. If the ancient clan is exposed, the other 8 ancient clans will definitely know about it. Especially the Soul clan. They plan to use gentle means to get the Tuosh ancient jade from the Zhao clan. The words of the Soul clan must be violent. When the time comes to fight, the entire city of Wutan will be destroyed. Huang Wei, who was lying on his back, continued to penetrate deep into the center of the god realm. I plan to find a godhead suitable for the amethyst-winged Lion King. The first thing to search for is the godhead of the soul beast type. Because of the previous war, the center of the god realm also lacked many of its original soul beasts. Some were simply broken and beyond repair. It's really a pity. Search and find. Suddenly Huang Wei's eyes lit up. In front of him, he saw a godhead emitting dark black energy flames, and it's still a lion-like pattern. Dark fire lion godhead. Chapter 250. Divine skills. Yuan Wu life transition. The dark fire lion godhead belongs to the category of first level gods. It's not broken yet, then it can be summoned. Huang Wei's spiritual thoughts are suspended above the entire divine universe. At this moment, he is in a state of soul body. But he possesses the terrifying power of following his words. Here, he is the invincible master and invincible existence. Soon, from the endless universe, a dark black light came to his hand. The moment the soul body disappears, Huang Wei's consciousness has returned to its original form. He was still lying on the amethyst-winged lion King. There is an extra godhead in his hand. Zhao Z. I have given you an opportunity. Whether you can seize it or not depends on you. Huang Wei smiled slightly, and the sudden sound made the amethyst-winged Lion King, who was flying diligently, a little confused. But he didn't wait for it to react. In midair, a ray of light penetrated directly into its eyebrows. The whole body suddenly stagnated. After losing his balance, his huge body fell instantly. Huang Wei took action, and was stabilized by a force of fighting spirit. After a while, the amethyst-winged Lion King gained attributes from his godhead. Get your wish. It obtained the Dark Fire Lion's 9 tests. Because the Daoqi continent plane is more advanced than everything in the Douluo world. The same is naturally true for the life forms here. The qualifications of the amethyst-winged Lion King are also more suitable. And passing the assessment will definitely not be a big problem. The content of the first test is to break through the 7th level within 3 years and become a human Daozang. The content of the assessment will also keep pace with the times and progress together. It explained this assessment content to Huang Wei. Huang Wei said, if you can collect the materials for Pio Zandan, I can refine it for you, and it will be 100% successful. Hearing this, the amethyst-winged Lion King was immediately troubled and said, Sir, I have never heard of the materials for Pio Zandan. What should I do? Huang Wei entered the super laboratory to try to find out whether he could get the materials for Pio Zandan point, but there is no way. Parameters are needed point. After he realized it, he asked the system himself point. The system gave the answer. He also secretly cursed himself for being a fool for not knowing to ask the system in the first place. In addition to taking drugs, you can actually upgrade through your own practice. The amethyst-winged Lion King is more difficult for anyone. Daozang is a watershed. If you can't make it, it will be a lifetime thing. If you get by, you will see a broader world. Huang Wei said, let's take it one step at a time. Soon the amethyst-winged Lion King came to Gamma Holy City Point. It immediately caused turmoil in the whole city point. The 2 fighting emperors from the Royal Guard and the Alchemist Guild came out point. The rest of the fighting kings also came out together. Amethyst-winged Lion King, what are you doing in my human kingdom? Jia Xingshan asked in a deep voice point. The amethyst-winged Lion King is certainly tyrannical, but with the 2 of them fighting kings, and so many fighting kings joining forces, they may not be invincible. Moreover, his country protecting beast Nether Sea Dragon Beast has not come out yet. Although the opponent is still recovering from his injuries, his fighting ability is not a vegetarian. Don't be impulsive. This time, I will only take one thing. Huang Wei stepped on the amethyst-winged Lion King and looked at the people in the sky with their fighting spirit transformed into wings with a smile. Who is this young man? Since he can ride on the amethyst-winged Lion King? As Xingshan was added, Mafa and others' pupils shrank, and their expressions changed point at the same time. A terrible thought flashed through my mind. Could it be that this young man is a Daozang? No matter what, he is definitely not from the Gamma Empire. Master, what do you want? Jia Xingshan asked with a solemn expression. Huang Wei's figure left the body of the amethyst-winged Lion King point, walking in the air with a wave of his hand. The figure of the amethyst-winged Lion King instantly entered the space crack point. Huang Wei smiled and said, I'm sorry, this little guy is a bit big. I apologize for the inconvenience it has caused you. Gilu, walking through the air. It's really Daozang. What level is such a method? Everyone's faces were filled with fear and suspicion point. If this really breaks out point, there are not enough of them together to fight for others. Young master, you'd better tell me what you want first. Jia Xingshan said. The beast fire of the Nether Sea Dragon Beast. Huang Wei didn't show off and spoke directly. The beast fire of the Nether Sea Dragon Beast. Everyone was shocked and then breathed a sigh of relief. Okay. Jia Xingshan nodded. This young master, please come with me. Jia Xingshan said point. This is a very simple thing for him. Seeing that the other party was so understanding, Huang Wei suddenly smiled with satisfaction. Then he turned to look at Mafa. Mafa didn't understand why the other party looked at him like this. Suddenly I felt a little scared. I wonder what this young master has to say to me. In the face of absolute strength, even he had to put down his dignity point, although he is an alchemist point. But Daozang wanted to crush him to death. It was too easy point, and this Daoqi continent is huge point. It's too easy to find an alchemist point, especially in those places in Zhongzhou. This young man has the realm of Daozang at such a young age. He must be from Zhongzhou. The forces behind him are absolutely terrifying. Huang Wei said softly. Presumably the old gentleman is Mafa, the president of the Alchemist Guild of the Gamma Empire, right? Mafa nodded. It's the old man. He broke out in a cold sweat, not knowing whether the other party was hostile or kind. I was really afraid that after admitting it, the other party would directly attack him. So he kept recalling whether he had offended this person. The final answer is no. Because this is the first time we meet people. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203. Could it be that other alchemists in the Jia Empire offended each other? The other party wants to teach him, the boss of the Alchemist Guild, a lesson. Gilu, thinking of this, he swallowed secretly. Then, President Selmatha will help me search for the materials on this. If you can find one, I will be very grateful then. Huang Wei raised his hand, and a parchment flew directly towards President Farmer. President Farmer was stunned, and breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that his thoughts just now were all wrong. There are really some things that you can't just think about. He opened it and took a look. It's all densely packed with materials. There are PoE pills, Pozong pills, and other ingredients for other elixirs. He listed them all. How many can the other party find? Okay, this young master, I will definitely try my best to get it together. Matha was also amazed by the medicinal materials above. These medicinal materials are extraordinary, and the refined elixirs are also very high. Okay, I will not break my promise to thank you deeply. Let me give you some advance payment first. As he spoke, Huang Wei tapped Matha gently. In an instant, a burst of fighting skills appeared among the participants. Magical skill. Xuanwu Life Crossing. This ability is a move he learned after becoming the Xuanwu God Point. Because his longevity has reached the point of being endless, will not die naturally. Therefore, he can extract his own lifespan and condense it into a ball of life energy, which he can transfer to the designated life form. Chapter 251. Dragon Transformation. Level 7. Before Farmer could react, green life energy shot into Farmer's body. Farmer's whole body instantly became green. Immediately afterwards, a scene that shocked everyone present appeared. I saw. The farmer, which is like an old dead tree, is nourished by this energy. His pale hair quickly turned black. The old face becomes young. The old body becomes young. The eyes of those watching widened, and their mouths opened. I'm getting younger. After Farmer acted. Feel the special changes coming from your body. The expression was shocked, horrified, and unbelievable. I will give you 10 years of life energy to help you regain your youth. After you complete the medicinal materials above, I will give you the life energy behind according to the level of the medicinal materials. Huang Wei's mouth moved slightly, and he said calmly. Farmer, who had transformed from an old man into a middle-aged man, took a breath of air. He said with an excited expression, I have almost no longevity left. I didn't expect you to have such means. Don't worry, sir. I will try my best to obtain the medicinal materials above. A ray of light came to Farmer's hands. It's a token. This is a teleportation note. I'll stay here for a while. This is the time you spend looking for medicinal herbs. When the time comes, you will find as much as you can. Huang Wei's voice was light. Well, sir, if we work together to find it, can we share the life energy? At this time, a middle-aged man came forward, raised his hand, and said. Farmer immediately introduced. Sir, this is the only 6th grade alchemist in our Jia Empire. Guhi. This is also the pride of their Jia Empire. Yes. All participants will have a share. Huang Wei nodded slightly. He didn't come here with any ill intentions anyway. Hearing this, everyone looked shocked. It suddenly became hot. Life energy. Especially for people whose realm is basically fixed. Lifespan is everything. Failure to break the mirror means imminent death. So Huang Wei's mission to find medicinal materials. These fighting kings all plan to participate, even if the Alchemist Guild is very big. But it may not be possible to obtain all the materials. You can discuss it later. Next, go get what I want. Huang Wei turned to look at Jia Xingshan. Jia Xingshan nodded. Sir, please come with me. With that said, he turned around and flew towards the royal family. Why don't we follow over and have a look? What kind of person is this person? Is there really a secret method that can give life energy to others on the Daoqi continent? If you are so willing, then this person's life must be very terrible. Maybe it's not a simple Daozang. Looking at the backs of Huang Wei and Jia Xingshan leaving. Everyone was discussing among themselves. Furukawa said, it's better not to go. Let's wait here. A man named Dao Wang said, President Farmer, Please show us the list. Farmer handed them the list. They gathered around. Hey, I really want to have one of these. Hey, I have this one at home. Damn it, I have the mandala of sand. Just like that, under the discussion of everyone, some impossible things become possible. On the other side, Huang Wei followed Jia Xingchen and left. Entered the royal palace. Go directly to a blue seabed realm. Here, hovering is a deep sea colored dragon-shaped dragon beast. Old man, you are here as a beast that protects the country. It actually already has feelings, a low voice echoed in this sea area. Give me dry blue water flames and a drop of your blood. In return, I can help you repair your hidden wounds. Huang Wei was the first to speak. This gentleman means what he says. The Nether Sea Dragon Beast knew how terrifying the young man in front of him was, so he naturally called him that. It was also exciting. I don't need to lie to you, little dragon beast. Huang Wei laughed and said. After finishing speaking, raise your hand a little. A huge Zuanwu shadow appeared. Low and majestic. Let the Nether Sea Dragon Beast and Jia Xingchen tremble in body and soul. His eyes were filled with fear. What is this stuff? What a terrible pressure. One person and one beast in front of Zuanwu. It feels so small. The system is different. Naturally, they don't know about martial arts cultivation. God level. Zuanwu blessing. Chapter 204. A green light appeared from the mysterious runes on Zuanwu Shadow's body. Directly injected into the body of the Nether Sea Dragon Beast. The Nether Sea Dragon Beast groaned. I feel the hidden pain and illness in my body. All done. The excitement could not be concealed on its face. Okay. My hidden illness for many years is gone. The Nether Sea Dragon Beast was overjoyed. Immediately afterwards a powerful energy rose from it. But the figure of the Nether Sea Dragon Beast has a dragon charm. This is it. It's going to break. Jia Xingchen was shocked and then overjoyed. The cultivation level of the Nether Sea Dragon Beast is originally the 9-star peak fighting emperor. Now Pioching can directly step into Daozang. If this is the case, the Jiama Empire will have its own Daozang guarding it. There is no need to be afraid of the Yunlin sect anymore. Daozang has brought a strong security barrier to the entire Jiama Empire. He is the guardian of the royal family of the Jiama Empire. How could you not be excited? Old man, I'm about to break through. A burst of energy shot into the sky. Straight into the sky. The surrounding blue water forms a tornado and rises into the sky. Roar. A dragon roared. The Nether Sea Dragon Beast evolves into the Nether Sea Blue Dragon, entering the 7th level. The only 7th level monster in the Jiama Empire. Dragon horns, dragon scales, snake body, eagle claws, and long flowing beard. Extremely domineering. Ha. I finally broke through the 7th level. Became a Daozang. It turns out that this is what Daozang feels like. It's really amazing. After laughing, a look of enjoyment appeared on his face, and a ray of light came out from the Nether Sea Blue Dragon. The huge dragon body gradually shrank. Transformed into a human form. Stepped into the threshold of Daozang. Taking human form is no longer a dream. It's just that he still has a lot of magical beast aura about him. There are also organizational characteristics of monsters on his body. The transformation pill can cover up all this very well. Let it become fully human. But it has to be said, this blue dragon from the underworld has transformed into a human form. The man with blue hair was revealed to be a burly old man. Congratulations, you broke through the Daozang, Huang Wei said with a smile. I didn't expect to help the other parties recover from his injuries. Can we break through? Why doesn't it work in the original work? Could it be me? It would be great if the Amethyst Winged Lion King had such luck. Thank you for all this, sir. Yao hey. Blue Dragon quickly looked like he was being taught. The excitement on his expression was uncontrollable. It was observing Huang Wei just now. I originally thought about entering Daozang. You can level with the opponent. But I didn't expect it. The opponent's cultivation level is bottomless. Make it completely invisible. Even panic. He has obviously entered Daozang. But in front of this human being. He is still so small. How strong is this human being? It was a very peaceful transaction. Bring the dried blue water flames and your blood, Huang Wei said lightly. Chapter 250 To crush. Hear the words Yao He. Blue Dragon did not hesitate at all. Immediately summon the fire of the body. Dry blue water inflammation. This is the original fire. And Princess Yaoi, who is just Zehuo, my lord, please, compared with Dao Zhang, Qianlun Xuan is not worth mentioning. It was handed over respectfully. Anyway, it is a 7th level monster. Even if the original fire is lost, under the warmth of his body, a second original fire will also slowly grow. So there is no need to worry at all. Huang Wei held it in his hand. Just playing around casually. The Zuanwu shadow on his body has long since disappeared. The Nether Sea Blue Dragon has entered the 7th level. Then this dry blue water flame also belongs to the 7th level beast fire. It is a very scary existence to others. If you touch it, it will disappear into smoke. But at this moment, Qianlun Xuan was like a good baby in Huang Wei's hands. It doesn't burn the opponent's skin at all. Then Huang Wei opened his mouth. Same as the previous amethyst flame. Put it in your mouth. A grunt. Swallowed. The tongue licked. The taste is just so, he said quietly. The burning art in the body is being refined instantly. This scene also looks at Jia Xingchen and Yao He Blue Dragon. Just swallow it. The eyes of the two old guys stared out. This is really the first time I've seen such an awesome person. Jia Xingchen is a 9-star peak fighting emperor. Naturally, he could feel the terrifying annihilation brought by the dry blue water flames. It seems as long as the other party wants to, you can burn him to death. Re-sweated and took a deep breath, spit it out, and look at the Nether Sea Blue Dragon. Asked, what state is he in? Yao He Blue Dragon stroked his beard and shook his head. His face was solemn, and his eyes showed the light of seeing something sinister. Said, it's very powerful, I don't know either. Chapter 205. At least what is certain is that I, as a 1-star Dao sect, you, still look so small in front of the other person. As soon as these words came out. Jia Xingchen's pupils suddenly shrank. Random facial skin twitching. Really a monster. Do you want to fight him later to test it out? Just because you have just stepped into Dao Zhang, you want to ask the other party for advice. Jia Xingchen quickly sent a message. After hearing this, the blue dragon of Yao He. In fact, I also have some impulsive feelings in my heart. There shouldn't be any danger. Okay, I'll give it a try later. The blue dragon of Yao He finally recovered to a state even higher than its peak point and stepped into Dao Zhang. What came back with him was the strong fighting spirit from before. It wants to fight the strong. Soon, Huang Wei opened his eyes in his hand. Raise your right hand. A blue flame appeared. At his dry blue water inflammation. And as he wished. Fenju successfully broke through to the lower level of Zuan level. The next step is to absorb the strange fire. Kinglian Earth Heart Fire. Wait for me. Your future master is coming to ravage you. However, Huang Wei's cultivation level was still stuck at 1-star Daozun. This is also normal. After all, the levels of both flames are too low. Now if you continue to absorb the beast fire, unless it can absorb something higher than level 7, otherwise there will be no progress at all. Only strange fire will do. Just slowly absorb and refine them one by one. His cultivation level will improve. Sir, this is the blood you want. After sighing, Yao He Blue Dragon quickly offered a drop of blood. Drops of blood floated in front of Huang Wei. He was very satisfied. He quickly put it away. My lord, I have an unasked request. Yao He Blue Dragon said. Huang Wei said, tell me. Please sir, please give me some advice. Saying that, Yao He Blue Dragon was the first to burst out with strong fighting spirit. At this moment, it seemed to have regained the feeling it had back then. Okay, I also want to see your strength, Huang Wei smiled. Flying directly into the blue sea. Seeing that the other party agreed. Yao He Blue Dragon was immediately overjoyed. Soaring into the sky with a wave of his hand, the huge blue dragon gun appeared. Attacked directly towards Huang Wei. Phew. Under his attack, Huang Wei's figure looked like a ghost. Easily dodge. The Nether Sea Blue Dragon has rich combat experience. He was just shocked by the opponent's speed. Reacted quickly. Use the power of water to transform into a dragon-shaped fighting technique. 1 to block Huang Wei. Dragon binding lock. Under the power of the terrifying Daozan. The surrounding void trembled slightly. Ho. Ho ho ho. Countless water dragons shot up around Huang Wei, playing with water in front of the Zuanwu god, Huang Wei suddenly smiled playfully when he saw this scene. A gentle push of the hand, an impact spreads directly. The water dragon's fighting skill attack stalls in midair, randomly crashes. What? Yao Hei Blue Dragon was shocked. Jiaxing Shan raised his glasses and stared with wide eyes. This is a battle of Dao Zhang, you can't miss it. Watch carefully. It was of great help to him. The Yao Hei Blue Dragon attacks Huang Wei. Nether. See Blue Dragon kill, using his special move, is also his famous stunt. On it, the body condensed by seawater appeared. The entire area is under its control. The momentum is huge, horrible. Dragon shakes the world. Mountains and rivers change. Huang Wei is naturally not afraid of the other party. Just water, then he is invincible. There is no way the other party can beat him in water. But he just wanted to show off. The moment he waved his hand, Poseidon's trident appears. A mighty force even more awesome than this appeared. In an instant, the shadow of the blue dragon in the deep sea was submerged. The moment the opponent's shadow came into contact with Huang Wei's mountain river offensive, broken directly. Puff. A mouthful of blood spat out from the mouth of the Yao Hei Blue Dragon. His face turned from the excitement of fighting to the sky to pale and weak. Forced. It gritted its teeth and directly revealed its true form. Raw. He knew that Huang Wei had not used all his strength yet. But what he didn't expect was Huang Wei was just playing with him. Want to kill each other. Just a matter of a hand or even a thought. After all, the soul power of half-step heaven realm. Very scary. Roar. The blue dragon roars furiously. A sonic attack. He rushed directly towards Huang Wei. The corners of Huang Wei's mouth curled up slightly. Sonic attacks can cause fatal damage to living beings with low soul power. But for Huang Wei, a powerful half-step heavenly soul who is so terrifying that he is unworthy of the heavens, this sonic attack. Chapter 206. Totally not enough. Raise the Poseidon trident in your hand. A little more to the sky. The sound wave was instantly extinguished. You can imagine how big the gap between the two is. Puff puff puff. The nether sea blue dragon's blood was vomiting, as if it was free of money. Blood splashed into the sky, fall directly to the ground. Old boy. Jiaxing Shan's expression changed. TSK, it's still very powerful. I've given up. Huang Wei secretly shook his head when he saw this scene. In order not to hurt the other party, he had tried his best to restrain himself. But I didn't expect it. The opponent is still too weak. The weak nether sea blue dragon turned into a human form. Fall straight down. Fall to the ground. My lord, why are you so aggressive? Jia Xingchen clenched his fists and asked through gritted teeth. Although he was very afraid of Huang Wei. But no matter what, the old man is his dead brother. He didn't want to talk to Huang Wei like this. But there is no way. Old man, don't worry, I've already taken care of you, otherwise I'll be dead. I didn't expect that the gap between the Daozongs would be so huge. I'm really delusional. Yao Hei Blue Dragon smiled bitterly. Huang Wei said, I'm not Daozang, but Daosan. Chapter 253. Talking about marriage. What? Fight. Dao Zan. The two old guys were shocked when they heard the stormy waves. Since the other party is so terrifying, Daozan and the others had only heard rumors. It is a great realm above Daozang. Daozang is for those of them from the Jama Empire. It's an infinitely desirable climbing height. But I didn't expect it. The height they worked so hard to pursue. In front of the other party, he is still as small as an ant. Honor. Jia Xingchen and Yao Hei Blue Dragon seem to have a clear understanding. Recalling what Huang Wei had always called himself before. This time I finally understood. In fact, the other party already showed his level when he first came over, but they thought this was Daozang's high profile name for themselves. I just never expected it. They really thought too much. He is really a Daozang. This was before. It's also that they don't want to admit it. It was such a shock after all. Now that the fight has ended, I will stay and go to the Mittel family for a while. Huang Wei put his hands behind his back and said calmly. Landed, turned around and headed outside. The Mittel family, your majesty. What did the Mittel family offend you? Jia Xingchen panicked, turned around, gritted his teeth, and asked, if you are really offended, None of them can save the Mittel family. The only Daozang was crushed and defeated miserably. Not to mention these fighting emperors, or fighting kings. The realm is nearly 20 realms different from Daozang. The power brought by each realm is unparalleled and terrifying, so no one dared to say anything. Jia Xingchen just wanted to know, in advance. Hope not. After all, he protects the Jia Empire. Still in the holy city of Gamma. He didn't want this to happen. No, I just went to discuss marriage. Huang Wei's lips moved slightly. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure gradually became smaller in the eyes of the two old guys. The distance is getting farther and farther. Talk about marriage. Who is this beauty? Mittel. Now that he is attracted by her, good guy, the Mittel family is about to take off. Jia Xingchen and Yaohei Blue Dragon took a breath of air with envy on their faces. Old man, don't you have two granddaughters? Yaohei Blue Dragon's eyes rolled. You two girls, Yaoi and Yaoi. When Jia Xingchen heard this, his eyes suddenly lit up. Yes, he himself has two precious granddaughters. A powerful man, and he is so young. Polygamy is also very normal. Jia Xingchen was going to sell his two granddaughters. As long as one of them can be favored by the other party, then it can be firmly tied to the Gamma Empire. From now on, the Jia Empire is also a country with a powerful Daozan as its backing. No more worrying about the Izumo Empire next door. Old man, how are your injuries? Jia Xingchen still asked. Yaohei Blue Dragon had a confused look on his face and said, it's nothing serious, it's just that he vomited a little too much blood. Your Majesty has already spared it, but I'm too weak to bear it. Jia Xingchen smiled and said, that's good. In that case, old man, you can recuperate here first, and I'll go find my two granddaughters to talk about this matter. This matter must be done against time. Don't waste a second. Go. Yaohei Blue Dragon waved his hand and said. Jia Xingchen smiled and immediately stood up and left. Yaohei Blue Dragon looked helpless, enduring the pain in his body. He smiled bitterly and said, I wouldn't have fought if I had known earlier. It was too painful. If I had known he was Daozan earlier, I would have fought. Slip away. Let's recuperate in the water first. As soon as he finished speaking, he was immersed directly into the sea of Yaohei. Went to heal people outside because Huang Wei didn't come out. So there was no rush to go back. On their respective faces they all have smiles that are determined to win. It's so comfortable. I've met my lord. As soon as Huang Wei appeared, everyone immediately saluted him. Well, you haven't left yet? Chapter 207. Huang Wei looked at the people in front of him. Farmer said, sir, we have just discussed some topics after you came in, and we can currently grasp 40% of the above materials. Huang Wei said, this is very good. Then you go and complete it. The conditions I said will not change. Yes. Then we'll take our leave first. Everyone responded after saluting. Huang Wei said, if the patriarch of the Mitre family is here, stay here. If I have anything to say, I will speak to him alone. Suddenly, everyone was stunned. Especially the middle-aged man in the crowd wearing some yellow and red clothes. His eyes were narrowed, and there was no confusion on his face. After all, he also received intelligence. He also probably guessed what Huang Wei asked him to stay this time. Suddenly there was some anticipation and excitement in my heart. Sir, I'm Chen Xin, the current patriarch of the Mitre family. The middle-aged man in yellow and red clothes immediately revealed his identity. That's great. Huang Wei nodded. Stay. The rest of you can disperse. Although everyone has a lot of confusion. But he still restrained himself from asking. After all, this is the other party's secret. These are the outsiders. You should just obey the arrangements honestly. Just like that, they left one after another. After they leave, Huang Wei smiled slightly, but did not speak. Mittelengchen understood and immediately asked, I don't know, sir, what do you want me to give you if I'm left alone? Huang Wei smiled and said, do you really know nothing? The news about Mittel should not be that backward. After all, some of the medicinal materials I asked for last night cannot be obtained from Wotan City. Mittel was slightly startled when he heard this. I didn't expect the other party to be so direct. So he didn't hide it. He directly showed off his cards and asked, when will the marriage between Sir and Yafei be held? I Just came here to remind you that Yafei is already my woman, so you must treat her well when you go. Huang Wei's tone was neither salty nor light from beginning to end. But Chen Xin was so frightened that cold sweat broke out on his forehead. This doesn't sound like anything wrong, but he could feel the terrifying threat in those words. As long as he says no, he will be destroyed physically and mentally. Chen Xin immediately said, I understand, sir. You just need to be at ease. I will transfer her from Wutan City back to Gamma Holy City. No, it's fine in Wutan City. Huang Wei waved his hand. I understand. Chen Xin nodded. As for what Yafei is doing, he will not interfere at all. But it will show the importance of the mitre branch in Wutan City to the outside world. Let some people with ulterior motives think carefully before taking action. If something happens to the other party. The Middle family will definitely lead everyone to destroy that force. Chen Xin struck while the iron was hot and said, how about I trouble you, your majesty, to move to the mitre family, to live in the next few days. Chapter 254 Daily Practice. Huang Wei has followed Middle Chen Xin back to his family. At the same time, he also became a guest. People from Mitre senior management came to pay their respects. At first they didn't understand. Why are they going to meet a young man who is younger than them? But the next moment, after hearing Chen Xin's introduction, cold sweat broke out instantly. In our key continent. The strong are respected. So there is no age barrier between them. They worshipped one after another. From now on, Mr. Huang is also the son-in-law of my Middle family and is married to Miss Middle Yafei. Seeing that these people were all calmed down, Chen Xin immediately followed the trend and introduced them. What? Marry Miss Yafei? When the elders heard this, they were shocked at first and then overjoyed. There can be a Daozang in charge. The Middle family is bound to each other. Daozang, Daozang, Daozang. These two names kept ringing in my mind. That's all. It makes people's blood boil. But this time. Jia Zingshan has found Yao Yu. Yao Yu went to join the army to fight. Can't be called back for the time being. He said that he would introduce a respectable man to the other party as his husband. Yao Yu was just joking with him when Jia Zingshan was there. Collected the parchment roll. I didn't look at it anymore. Started to join the army and practice. Jia Zingshan saw that the other party did not respond. He also sighed. He cursed secretly. You silly girl doesn't know how to cherish opportunities. So he set his sights on his youngest granddaughter Yao Yu. This is the current scene. After telling the other person roughly what he meant, Yao Yu's face suddenly turned crimson. The delicate and exquisite body twists and turns. Very shy. Grandpa, you are lying. How can the other party Daozang like me? Yao Yu said. Jia Zingshan also had a headache and immediately said, yes, there must be no problem. You know Middle Yafei, right? Sister Yafei, I know. Yao Yu nodded blankly. When he heard this, Jia Zingshan said that young Daozang just fell in love with him. I heard what he said personally. Jia Zingshan rolled his eyes and said, think about it. Yafei's cultivation talent is not good. She is so talented at the 9th level of fighting spirit. And you are higher than her. There must be no problem. Yao Yu blushed and said shyly, Grandpa, this is not good. The other party is Sister Yafei's husband. If I go up like this, wouldn't I be trying to steal a man from her? I can't do such a thing. Although he is Daozang, very powerful. The other party is already a married woman, so I'm really embarrassed. How could she accept it when she was still a young girl? Jia Zingshan immediately used his skills to paint a pie for Yao Yu, a silly girl, and said with very skillful words, silly girl, in fact, there is nothing shameful about these things. Being able to marry a Daozang, not only will your status is instantly raised, and we can also obtain more powerful training resources. At the same time, the entire Jia Empire can also bind a strong Daozang to sit in charge. Do you know what this means? It also means that we are no longer afraid of the people around us. Threat from the Empire. True peace. Yao Yu blinked, smiled, and said, after all, you still regard me as a tool for marriage, right? She just looks young, but her IQ is not low at all. Naturally, we can see the crux of the problem. Jia Zingshan was shocked. For a moment I couldn't think of anything to say. But soon Yao Yu said again, why don't you let Sister Yao Yu go? She is older than me. Jia Xingchen coughed dryly and said, your sister is busy in the army, so she doesn't have free time to answer my letter for the time being. Forget it, Grandpa. I have already said what I should say, and I have found a way out for you. If you two don't know how to cherish it, forget it. Grandpa won't force you. Seeing Yaoi's face look like this, after Jia Xingchen sighed, he shook his head secretly, turned around and went to boxing. Seeing this scene, Yaoi was extremely confused. Jia Xingchen was also thinking in his heart as he walked. Change your mind quickly. Hurry, why not? Is it really not possible? Is it too impulsive and hasty for me to act like this? Grandfather, wait a moment. Just when Jia Xingchen was anxious and doubting himself, he was about to leave the temple. Yaoi's submissive voice sounded at this moment. Hearing this, Jia Xingchen's eyes suddenly lit up. The old fox was in no hurry to reveal anything. Instead, he stopped and turned around slowly and lazily. What? My precious granddaughter has figured it out. Jia Xingchen said with a faint smile. Chapter 208. In his current state, he is completely smiling. When Yaoi said this, her face turned red. She squeezed her skirt tightly and said, Grandpa, I can give it a try, but I can't guarantee that he will like me. When Jia Xingchen heard Yaoi's agreement, he came directly to the other party with a hiss and said with a mean look, no problem. If you really can't grasp it, just go directly to him and confess your love in a simple and clear way. When the time comes, Grandpa, I will help you out. Time passes quickly. After a while, several days passed like this. A lot of things happened in Wutan City. The plot of Mel and Yanran coming to break off the engagement and the original work was still played out truthfully, and Huang Wei secretly came back to watch it again. It really came out of nothing, and it is truly a classic scene. In the past few days, he has been practicing in the Mitre family with his 50% improvement in cultivation speed. In addition, with the help of the Zuanwu heart, there is also the effect of the attachment training at the center of the God Realm. In just a few days, his strength has improved from a 1-star Daozun to a high level 1-star Daozun. It is also faster than the 2-star Daozun is. Target is still strange fire. Ability to absorb strange fire. To improve cultivation. It would be stupid enough to practice. However, cultivation still needs to be improved. It would be bad if the time comes to really play with fire and burn yourself. On the way, I also went to the Mitre branch in Wutan City. He and Yafei lived a life without shame or impatience. At this moment, he was at the home of the head of the Middle family in the holy city of Gamma. However, at this moment, Huang Wei flew directly towards the royal palace. By the way, someone was asked to notify Farmer and tell him that he was leaving. Ask him to get all the prepared medicinal materials. As soon as these people returned, they got out all the medicinal materials. Everyone contributes one after another, then take a piece of the pie. Why isn't it beautiful? After Farmer got the news, immediately contacted several previous fighting kings. Soon everyone gathered in the royal hall again. Everyone respectfully paid homage to Huang Wei. At the same time, he also handed over all the medicinal materials that could be collected in such a short period of time, and the parchment. Huang Wei did not accept it, but said in a neutral tone, there is no need to give the parchment to me. Just pay more attention to the unfinished medicinal materials. I will put them away when I come back. Everyone was happy when they heard this. Huang Wei looked at the many medicinal materials on the face paint. He immediately smiled. Chapter 255. Kingshan Town. Wherever your venerable master is going next, we can lead the way. Jia Xingchen took the initiative to speak. The others were also curious. Huang Wei shook his head. No need, I can do the rest of the journey alone. Your Majesty, I have something I want to hear from you. Everyone looked over. This made Jia Xingchen feel a little embarrassed. This old guy. Is there anything else to say at this time? Huang Wei raised his eyebrows. Say, Jia. Xingchen's eyes sparkled. He coughed dryly and said, I have a granddaughter. It's time to talk about marriage. So I want to introduce it to His Holiness. I wonder if His Holiness is interested? Jia Xingchen said these words hesitantly. I felt a little embarrassed myself. This is a shameless climb. Everyone suddenly understood. Everyone is a smart guy. Instantly I understood Jia Xingchen's ulterior motives. At the same time. Some people's eyes light up. Yes. The daughter or granddaughter of the family. Not even a married woman. As long as you look good. You can introduce them all. If the other party likes one, then that is a blessing for that one of them. This moment. They all have this little idea. In their eyes Huang Wei is the best half of the women in the family. But Huang Wei heard this. Make a complaint in your mind. It turns out that this old guy has been hesitating. This was actually the idea. Look at the fiery and eager eyes of the others. He gave up decisively. Shaking his head. I already have a wife. Put away your little thoughts. As soon as these words came out, everyone restrained themselves. I thought to myself, what a pity. Mount Middleton sees this. His eyes became colder. The smile that cannot be concealed shines in his eyes. Okay. His Holiness is really a dedicated man. What was he worried about at first? But now I know. Completely redundant. Jia Xingchen felt extremely disappointed. Not willing to let his plans fail. Only the Middle family is cheap. Your Majesty, my granddaughter is very pretty. With that said, he planned to let Yaoyu come out. There was a trace of impatience on Huang Wei's face. I don't want to say what I said a second time. As soon as these words came out. A grunt. My whole body felt so stressed. Plus Xingchen will be angry tomorrow. Offending such a fighting master not a wise move. If he continued talking, he felt dead. Huang Wei brought the medicinal materials and said, Concubine Metelia is my wife. Everyone, take good care of me. Wait until I come back again. Chapter 209. Reward for merit. Yes. Those who didn't understand suddenly woke up. It turns out that the other party's wife is actually concubine Metelia. Someone who was instantly envious. He looked at Mitteleng Mountain with envy in his eyes. Tengchen raised his head proudly. Then the silence continued. Your Holiness is taking a stand. Mittel has completely bound a tyrannical figure. Let's see who dares to think too little about them and the empire. The other Daowang also understood instantly. Going to curry favor with Mittel. This is true even for Jia Xingchen. Of course, for the sake of face. Naturally it won't be too obvious. You can claim these medicinal materials. I each give life energy. Many medicinal herbs just collected. All floating in the sky. Then Farmer was very excited and immediately recognized it. The same goes for Dan Wangu, Jia Xingchen and others. As if I was afraid of being robbed. No way. Xiaoyan. This is something more precious than anything else. Don't be careless. After figuring it out. Huang Wei smiled slightly. Lift your finger. Used magical skills again. Zuan were life crossing. A few rays of light. With different life energies. Into their bodies respectively. As the green light dissipated. Everyone is like a flashback. Get younger. Fantastic. The largest collection of magic mammals here. Enjoyed it more. Become younger. The effect of strengthening the foundation and cultivating the vitality. Feel the decaying body energy in your body. Has been completely restored. This is what it feels like to be given life energy. Fantastic. They were amazed. It's like doing it again. But it's a pity. It won't be possible in a short time. Okay, I will leave first. Huang Wei glanced at everyone. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Everyone saluted and bowed. Huang Wei's figure was very fast. Just fly forward. It's really incredible. Is this really something Daozang can do? As far as I know, Daozang doesn't have such means. They sighed. Jia Xingchen took a deep breath and said, he is not a Daozang, except for Tengchen, who is already known. The others were shocked and confused. But it seems to be within the scope, of course. After all, there are such powerful means. Then what is he? A fighting king asked. Above Daozang, Daozan, Jia Xingchen spit out in a deep voice. The tone was trembling. It was inside before. The Nether Sea Blue Dragon fights against it. A scene of being completely crushed. The memory is still fresh to this day. Daozan. I thought Daozang had reached its peak. I thought we were pursuing the end point. Others have already surpassed him at such a young age. Daozan. Those are two terrible words. They were extremely surprised. Even the Dan Wang Furukawa. Here this level. My heart was also touched countless times. Daozan. He has heard of this realm because he went to places even outside the Gamma Empire. It is a very terrifying existence. Can't afford it. Put it in a small place like Jayamar Empire point, it is already at the highest level. Even if placed outside the Jayamar Empire point, he is also very powerful and has a high status. Huang Wei left the holy city of Gamma Point. There was no rush to go to Taga Desert. Instead, he went to another place in the plot point, a more representative place point, Kingshan Town. There are 3 big treasures here: a poisonous book point, a remnant picture of the pure lotus demon fire point, one is the lost flying fighting skill point, and those other herbs. And he also wanted to see what the little medical fairy looked like point, Kingshan Town point, a place where you can live off the mountain and eat the mountain point. It is also the place of choice for many mercenaries and people who form groups. There is a well-known drugstore here on a main road point. There is a long queue at a drugstore point. The doctor was a beautiful long-haired woman. The long-haired woman felt her pulse, talked about her condition, and prescribed a prescription one by one. The price is also affordable. There are 3 big characters on the medicine shop. Little Medical Fairy. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210. The shopkeeper is a middle-aged man point. A middle-aged man was eating melon seeds on the side point. The scene before him made him very satisfied point, an amiable look on his face point. But Huang Wei, who had read the original work, was not far away point. He knew this guy was a hypocrite point, human face and animal heart point. He completely regards his little eyes as a tool point. At this time point, a young man walked over here point. Careless, he exuded an aura of arrogance and domineering. That was shocking point. Those around who came to see the doctor, seeing this person, they all ran away in a hurry point. See this scene point. The middle-aged man frowned point, very unhappy point, but look at it in a blink of an eye point. But he looked frightened point. Chapter 256. Little Medical Fairy Mew. Mr. Mew, why did you come to visit us today? The middle-aged man stood up immediately point, smiling flatteringly point. Among them, he was even more frightened by the aura of the young man in front of him point. The person in front of me is from Kingshan Town point, the famous young leader of the wolf-head mercenary group. My father is the grand leader of the 2-star Daoshi. The strength is terrifying. Muley glanced in front of him with disdain point, then his eyes were on the little medical fairy in the medicine shop point, showing a face of greed and ignorance point. He said calmly, I'm here, of course, for my woman. Swallowed point, expressing his desire for the little medical fairy. The little medical fairy in the medicine shop saw the patient running away point, suddenly dissatisfied point, turn around and look over. It's a familiar disgusting person. It's really you, Mew Lee. What are you doing here? All my patients are scared away by you. The little medical fairy said coldly point, it shows that strangers should not enter the aura. Just a bunch of trash. If they are scared, then treat me alone. Mew Lee cut it with disdain point, then his eyes looked at the little medical fairy even more unscrupulously point. The desire becomes more intense. The little medical fairy showed disgust. He said coldly, get out. Mew Lee stopped pretending. When have you ever been scolded as a member of the wolf-head mercenary group? He, a young captain, could put down his dignity and talk to her. It's already very generous. Little medical fairy, don't toast me or drink the penalty wine. Come back with me now. I, Muley, have fallen in love with you. Being my woman will make you miserable for the rest of your life. Why stay here and open such a shabby drugstore? Muley's words were full of ridicule and contempt. Then he glanced sideways at the middle-aged man. Leng understands. Do you think so? Ah, yes. The middle-aged man looked helpless and aggrieved point. The little medical fairy gritted his teeth. Brother, give way. I have taken a liking to this woman. At this time, a young voice broke the bad atmosphere point. The 3 people's eyes instantly shifted to the person approaching point. The person coming is not someone else point, it is Huang Wei point. They found out point there was no fighting energy fluctuation in the person who came point. He is just an ordinary mortal point. The big deal is to dress nicer, a little more gorgeous, be richer. Damn, who are you, young master? Why are you a loser, interrupting what I'm talking about? Watch me slap you. Mew Li's face was gloomy, and he became angry instantly. Treat Huang Wei is a young master from an ordinary mortal family. But in front of him, he is still useless, and he looked at the man in front of him. Actually taller than him. And it's even prettier than him, even more unhappy, showing a vicious look. Surrounded by fighting spirit, he planned to destroy the opponent's face. On the other hand, Huang Wei didn't even look at him. Careful. The little medical fairy was startled at first, and then spoke to remind him. Well, next moment. Muley gathered his fighting spirit, and was about to take action. The body stagnates, tremble, bang, then there was a terrible wind. Knock it away. A mouthful of blood spurted out, as if he wanted to spit out his internal organs. Boom. Muley's body hit a rock not far away. Buried by broken stones. Don't know life or death. Saw this sudden scene. People present. They all fell into silence. After all, many people didn't run far, just hiding not far away and peeking. At this moment, they all grunted in unison. It feels like the saliva usually slides off easily. It's especially hard to swallow now. Who are you? The middle-aged man was so frightened at the sight that he clung to the wall. Chapter 211. The voice was shaky and frightened. On the other hand, although the little medical fairy was frightened by Huang Wei. But I still listened well. No matter how she doesn't dislike the person in front of her because he helped him drive away the damn Muley. Leave quickly, or the wolf-head mercenary group will come to kill you later. The little fairy doctor gave good advice. That's where the Grand Commander of the Two-Star Dao Master sits. It was his son Yubi just now. He looked at the strange young man who didn't take it seriously and continued to walk in. She continued to remind her kindly. Come to the front of the drugstore. Huang Wei just spoke calmly. A little fighting master can be killed with just a thought. Can't make waves. I am very interested in you, Huang Wei looked at the little medical fairy with meaningful eyes. The little medical fairy was very uncomfortable being looked at. Silver teeth clenched. His face turned pale. Could this person be the same as Muley, a scumbag? Woohoo, this guy is so strong. What do you really want to do to me? Then I will release the poison in my body. Die with him. I have a plan in mind. I also have confidence. No longer afraid of Huang Wei. What do you want to do with your strength? Do you still need medical treatment? Asked the little medical fairy. Little beauty, go to a place with me, Huang Wei said. When the little doctor fairy heard this, his face suddenly turned red with embarrassment. Wait for the prodigal. However, the next moment Huang Wei had already grabbed the opponent's wrist. What are you doing? The little medical fairy was surprised. Walk. Huang Wei took her and disappeared. It's over. It's over. He's gone. We're dead. The middle-aged man looked at the broken stone hill. Scared to death. The murderer is gone. If only the wolf-head mercenary group knew. He will definitely be slaughtered. As the shopkeeper, he was scared to death. Planning to run away. But before running again. Let's get rid of the gravel first. I saw a pale young man lying in a pool of blood. There was no movement on his body. Like dead. The shopkeeper's hands were trembling. He stretched it out and breathed. No, gone. Then he trembled and felt the pulse under his neck. Not jumping at all. Muley is really dead. Giloo. In an instant, there was thunder and lightning. It's over. It's really over. His legs went weak, his feet sprained, and he fell to the ground. He kept retreating in fear. Run quickly, or everyone here will die. The shopkeeper shouted in panic. He staggered up and ran. Go pack up the money you can take and run away. So does the rest. But there are also some people who plan to tell the group leader have a mindset that you can be rewarded. But they would never have imagined it. The other party will kill them all in a rage. The other side. Two people were flying quickly in the sky. The little medical fairy recovered from the shock. He was startled and quickly hugged Huang Wei's arm, flying, walking through the air. Are you a strong Daozang warrior? The little medical fairy looked shocked and did not see the fighting spirit transformed wings behind Huang Wei. That absolute force is walking in the air that only Daozang can use. Daozang is just like an ant in front of me. I am Daozang. Huang Wei's plain face and tone revealed disdain and contempt. What is the realm of Daozang? Although He doesn't know what realm Dalzun is, but I understand why this person was so strong before point. And when I heard that the leader of the wolf-head mercenary group was a 2-star fighting master, not at all a serious matter, a realm beyond Dalzun, you will also achieve it in the future. Huang Wei said lightly. Can I achieve it? You don't have to lie to me. The little medical fairy looked frustrated. As long as you untie the poisonous body of disaster and completely control it, that's it, Huang Wei said calmly. Chapter 257 The Little Medical Fairy's Treasure Hunting Journey. As long as you untie the poisonous body of disaster and completely control it, that's it, Huang Wei said calmly. The little medical fairy was still in shock. When hearing Huang Wei's words, the little medical fairy's face instantly stiffened. The little heart in the body even beats a little. It made her look frightened and trembling. How do you know? The little medical fairy's voice trembled. Poison body is difficult for ordinary people to deal with. I don't know him either. But here, it's not a big problem. Smiling slightly, Huang Wei replied lightly. As long as you follow me. Chapter 212. I can help you get rid of the poisonous body of disaster and be able to completely control it. He looked at the little medical fairy who was already a little dull. What do you want to do? The little medical fairy looked pale and a little scared. Because she knows there is no free lunch in this world. Take me to the cave you found, Huang Wei said calmly. What cave? The little medical fairy was stunned for a moment and then thought of something. The only cave he discovered was that place. But even if I think about it, but still playing dumb. If you keep pretending to be stupid, I will throw you out of here, Huang Wei said lightly. The Warcraft mountains are very powerful, lots of cliffhangers. Usually if there is no place hard to find. He can search through the spread of soul power, but it's troublesome. There are ready-made people to lead the way. No need to go to that trouble. The little medical fairy heard it. His face became even paler. He lowered his head and took a look. Oh my god, it's so high. This height is at least tens of thousands of meters. Fall down. With her cultivation level, she will definitely die. Holding Huang Wei's arms became stronger, very comfortable. No, don't throw me down, I said. I discovered that place. The little medical fairy begged. Huang Wei smiled half-heartedly. Then what? Can you leave some for me? The little medical fairy's tone became pleading. Huang Wei said, okay, real. The little medical fairy looked up excitedly. Just right. Eyes facing each other. The lips are very close. The little medical fairy's face turned crimson. Shyly, he quickly lowered his head. Seeing each other like this, Huang Wei is full of fun. She is truly a beauty. See you soon. The little medical fairy raised her hand, pointing to the east ahead. Nuo said, over there. This is the thought. The figures of Huang Wei and the little medical fairy disappeared into the sky. Appeared in the direction pointed by the little medical fairy. Look below. A great rift valley. There are woods all around. Here, Huang Wei finished speaking. The little medical fairy was also surprised by the speed. So fast. Transferred instantly. Below, there is a familiar scene. He nodded. Yes, it is here. Immediately afterwards, Huang Wei's figure has arrived at the bottom of the cliff. Ahead. It's a cave hidden in the cliff wall. Hiss, hiss. At this time, there was a very thick green snake crawling on the vines on the wall. The green snake's eyes were sharp, vomiting red letters. Those eyes exuded a terrifying, chilling aura. It's a first-order red letter snake. The little medical fairy's expression changed drastically. Show fear. The hand holding Huang Wei became stronger. Roll. Huang Wei just gave him a cold luck. Instantly a breath locked down. This snake suddenly changed its tone. From being sharp and strong, it has become weak. He turned around and ran away. This moment. The little medical fairy once again realized the importance of strength. How about it? Do you want to become stronger, Huang Wei laughed and said, think. The little medical fairy nodded decisively. Don't worry, follow me. Soon I can help you become a strong person. Huang Wei smiled even more satisfied. The two of them have arrived in front of the cave. As soon as it hits the ground, the little medical fairy hurriedly broke away from Huang Wei's warm hand. Women change their minds so quickly. were so reluctant to let go just now, hugging me so tightly, and now you're leaving. Huang Wei's voice was soft and his tone was teasing. Huh, you didn't force me. The little fairy doctor is said to be a sore point. He stamped his feet in shame and anger. This scene is very cute. The young man in front of me is a big hooligan. Shameless. By the way, how did you know that I'm the poisonous body of Enon? She came back to her senses and asked curiously. I am Daozun, so you can naturally tell. Enon's poisonous body is a treasure once it's used up. If you don't use it properly, the poison will explode. Huang Wei said. What should we do if the toxin breaks out? Asked the little medical fairy. Huang Wei said calmly, you will lose control and become the source of all poison. When the time comes, you will only have two endings. The first one, who is stronger than the other Daozun, will kill you. Chapter 213. Second, I will seal you for eternity. Huang Wei smiled slightly. No matter which one it is not what the little medical fairy wants to happen. So she is scared now. I don't want to die. The little medical fairy said in horror. The body slowly retreated. Huang Wei said, if you don't want to die, just follow me and help me become your teacher. I am an alchemist. Go back and find the materials for master to refine an elixir for you. It is guaranteed to be able to cure your illness. It will not only completely activate and improve your cultivation, but also completely control it and become a strong person. As soon as this statement came out, the little medical fairy's eyes lit up instantly. Since you are an alchemist, can it really help me completely control the poisonous body of disaster? Actually, my wish is very small, as long as I can eliminate the evil body. As for whether it can be activated to improve the cultivation strength or become stronger after controlling it, I don't have much interest in any of this. I just want to live peacefully for the rest of my life. When it comes to this, the little medical fairy has been very tactful. It also expresses one's wishes. Huang Wei said, the world is very realistic. Sometimes it's useless even if you don't think about it. The poisonous body of disaster is a time bomb that will explode at any time. It is your fate to be chosen by the evil poisonous body. This is both a disaster and an opportunity. Huang Wei's words touched the little medical fairy's heart. Is it really okay if I become your disciple? Asked the little medical fairy. Huang Wei nodded. Thump. The next second, the little medical fairy knelt down directly. Disciple pays homage to master, he shouted, seeing the other party suddenly kneeling down so decisively. Huang Wei was also a little stunned. Get up. Huang Wei moved his finger slightly. A breeze pulled it up. You will be my first disciple from now on. Huang Wei smiled with satisfaction. Master, what should we do next? Asked the little medical fairy. Huang Wei said, go hunting for treasure first. Lead the way in. Follow him inside. The door in front of the cave directly shattered. Although Huang Wei is very ordinary. But there was a terrifying aura about him. Suffocating. Entering inside is a gloomy environment. The sun is out of sight. This is also very normal. Go ahead and walk inside. The little Dr. Fairy's eyes were sparkling. All the surrounding ground is filled with really expensive medicinal materials. At least that's the case for the little medical fairy. I saw 3 treasure chests in front of me. Huang Wei punched each one. After breaking. 1 is a parchment roll. 1 is a broken and unknown picture. 1 is the poison sutra. This book of poison is suitable for little medical immortals. Without saying anything, he threw it directly to the little medical fairy. The little medical fairy quickly took it over. I was deeply attracted by the name of the book in front of me. Chapter 258. Eliminate the wolf head. Huang Wei said, take it and study. All the materials here are given to you. I want this fragment for my master. As for this flying fighting skill, it has been lost for a long time. Master, do some research first and see if I can find more beautiful wings for you. Otherwise, forget it. After listening to Huang Wei's words, the little medical fairy also leaned over to take a look with a curious expression. But the above content is too profound. It's not easy to understand for her now. I simply stopped watching it. Concentrate on studying the medicinal materials on the ground. Huang Wei looked at the information in his hand. thinking about things by yourself. Don't think too much about the map of Pure Lotus Demon Fire. It's completely unknown now. This thing is only useful when Xiao Yan is in his later stages. This time is far from that time. Not even close. As for that flying fighting skill, it was of no use to him. Everyone can fly directly. Why should I put on wings? Not to mention, he also has a nice bat suit. After opening the scroll, look at it carefully. After a moment, he put it away. With his current half-step heavenly soul power, you will soon understand the content above. Now the little medical fairy is carefully taking those medicinal materials. Master, you said that I'm a poisonous body. Can I really become an alchemist? Will the prepared medicine poison people? At this time, the little medical fairy asked curiously. Huang Wei said, okay, no problem. Huang Wei, normal people can make normal elixirs, but you can also refine poison elixirs and use poison to fight poison. Have you heard of it? I've heard of it. The little medical fairy nodded her head. When you can control the poison, you will know the mystery of the poison. Erysipelas are 3-part poisons in medicine. If a person takes too many elixirs, erysipelas will form in the body. It is not easy to resolve this kind of poison. This is the perfect time to use your strengths. Huang Wei was talking eloquently, looking like a very experienced old guy. Gives people an impulse of conviction. Same moment. In Kingshan Town. Within the wolf head mercenary group. Mushi looked at the cold corpse in front of her. This is his own son. Rich blood water. Just now, he felt very uneasy. It turns out that the source is here on the ground. There was a corpse that had been turned into bloody mud. Chapter 214. This person just came to report the news to the angry Mew Snake. He was furious, killed with one slap. Looking at Muley's body. His face was downcast, and he clenched his fists. Find the murderer and I will kill him with 1,000 knives. One word. Calm down the stormy sea. A terrifying wave of fighting spirit rose up from his body. The people here were frightened. Kneel on the ground. This is how terrifying the 2-star fighting master is. A very ethereal piece of clothing appeared on him. It is the fighting spirit clothes that are only available in the Dao Master realm. Captain, I have something to report. A pony boy stood up and said. Explain, Mew. She said in a deep voice. Some people saw that the murderer could fly. What? Fly? Sure, Mew. She's expression changed, like sharp and murderous wolf eyes, staring at that person fiercely. This look could kill the other person at any time. It made his soul tremble, and his whole body tremble. Yeah, that's what the people we asked said. To fly. Only when you reach the realm of Daowan can your fighting spirit turn into wings and fly. In other words, the opponent is at least a fighting king. Think of this. Mew Snake instantly became frightened. If you really are a fighting king, then he is a little 2-star fighter. What does it mean to others? None of that. There is not even a chance for revenge. Fighting master, distant fighting king. But there is a big difference between the two realms of great fighting master and fighting spirit, not to mention the small realm in between. One is more difficult than the other. Captain, those people said they didn't see wings on their backs. The horse boy added something submissive. The temperature of the whole place turned cold. It became extremely silent. The fighting spirit and Mushi also disappeared. If the other party didn't misunderstand it, this person is either a soul beast, either Dao Wang or Dao Zhang. No matter which one it is, we can't mess with it. Hey, it's really hard for me to die, so my death was in vain. Leah, my father will definitely try his best to avenge you. If it doesn't work, you must not blame your father, Mew. She's shoulders relaxed, with a look of despair on his face. Looking at the corpse in front of him, he dared not speak with anger, but finally turned into a stomach full of grievances. Someone, go find a good place to bury my son. Soon, everyone started to take action. After burying Muley's body. Mew Snake saw a sword again. The leader is so angry, now that he has nowhere to vent his anger. Go to the place where my son died, and kill all the people there. Only then can I relieve the hatred in my heart. Mushi shouted loudly. Everyone set off quickly. The other side. Huang Wei planned to leave with the little medical fairy. Go directly to Tagore Desert. But the little doctor insisted that something was missing in that place. Need to go back and get it back. Huang Wei asked her why she didn't take it before. The little medical fairy replied with an innocent face, "You just take me away, there is no chance at all." Huang Wei was immediately speechless. They came back. I just happened to see a group of people from the Wolf Head mercenary group. They were smashing those houses angrily. When I just came here, knew she also planned to kill these people to vent his anger, but I never expected it. All these people ran away. Even the shopkeeper is like this. Everything left at home is worthless. He was really pissed off. People cannot be killed. Then he would just ask people to smash things together. A crackling sound. It kept ringing. Very rhythmic and melodic. The noise is filled with endless anger and chilling. Why only hit here? Don't you want to destroy other places? That's because the other places are the territory of the other two mercenary groups. Their strength is on par with their wolf heads. Master, stop them quickly. If this continues, my shop will be smashed and my things will be destroyed. On the sky. The little medical fairy saw this scene. He immediately turned to look at Huang Wei. Huang Wei nodded. He raised his hand and moved it casually. It is moved by an invisible force of the 5 element. The people from the wolf head mercenary group below are wreaking havoc. Suddenly, they all fell to the ground unknown. Take a closer look. Their pupils were all white. Lost his mind. It's their soul gone. All of them were wiped out by Huang Wei. Originally, he wanted these people to explode one after another, but considering the picture is too bloody. There was another little girl beside him, not suitable for children. So I stopped doing it. Just leave it like this. Huang Wei took her and slowly landed on the ground. Go on, pack up, and then we'll leave here and go to the Taiga Desert. Chapter 259. The solution to the disaster. Poison body. Will you come back here again in the future? Pack it up and put it in the ring. The little medical fairy turned around, looking at the house where she had lived for so long with eyes mixed with many complicated emotions. Chapter 215. Full of reluctance. Don't worry, I will come back later. If you can become strong, you can fly back by yourself after growing wings. Huang Wei understood the reluctance of the little medical fairy, smiled slightly, and comforted him. Master, let's go. The little medical fairy nodded, and finally her eyes became determined. She must become stronger. It's time to go out and see this world. At least there will still be an ancestral home when I come back. That's all. Huang Wei took the little medical fairy and flew away from this moment. The amethyst winged lion king also returned to them again. Go to the stone desert city in the Taiga Desert. Huang Wei said. The amethyst winged lion king responded by flapping its huge wings. It just soared into the sky at an extremely fast speed. The world is big and the Jayamar Empire is not small either. In the following time. Huang Wei first briefly taught the adapted alchemist knowledge to the little medical fairy. The little medical fairy studied very hard. She has to study hard. We must not let master down. Huang Wei collected a drop of medicinal materials collected by the little medical fairy. Use the blood hub to continuously replicate. Logically speaking, these fluids are also the blood of plants, so it can be copied, then leave it to the super laboratory for continuous production. The little medical fairy's usual practice is to eat poisonous medicinal materials. The more poisonous the medicine, the more powerful it will be for her practice. The poison of disaster is experienced in a strange way. Transformed into a very special poisonous fighting spirit. But this is also a double-edged sword. While helping her, there will also be backlash due to poison. Your own toxins accumulate more and more. In the end, he couldn't restrain his poisonous fighting spirit. You will suffer the pain of being devoured by thousands of poisons and died. The little medical fairy had not practiced any skills before. So I don't understand it at all. Now we have this 7 colorful poison sutra. After she flipped through it, she found that it contained a lot of knowledge about how to prepare poisons and a brief introduction to the poisonous body of venom. This is something extremely important to her now. She is learning alchemy with Huang Wei. While studying. Alchemy requires good control of the method. Then you can refine the poison elixir very well. It can also treat physical problems. After all, fighting fire with fire is the fastest way to cure a disease. Huang Wei who has read the original work, naturally knows the horror of the little Dr. Zernon's poisonous body point, and how difficult it is to control. His powerful half-step heavenly soul power scanned the little medical fairy point, discover every bone, meridians, internal organs, etc. in the body point. Everything is spreading with violent and terrifying poison. This is no problem for the little Dr. Fairy in the short-term point, but long-term point according to the original time point it will definitely happen. Very painful. There are only two ways now. Or suppress or solve it completely. Both of these seem like crap. If you don't do this, you'll have to seal it. Zana, I'll take a drop of your blood for my master, Huang Wei said. The little medical fairy was stunned. I don't know what Huang Wei means. The next moment I saw the other person raise his hand a little. Under a force. She seemed to feel a pressure in her fingers. A drop of red-green blood just floated in the air. Huang Wei put it away. He glanced at the little medical fairy and said, study knowledge carefully and don't get distracted. The little medical fairy was very obedient and continued to study. Digest the knowledge of Huang Wei. Huang Wei smiled with satisfaction. Then close your eyes. The soul entered the super laboratory. Start using the awesome equipment here to analyze the little Dr. Fairy's blood. Using this drop of blood, it is not a problem to analyze or even directly clone a little medical fairy. The poisonous body of disaster cannot be erased. This is a treasure. God gifted the little fairy doctor. He needs to try and experiment. Find a way to completely let the little medical fairy control the evil body. As long as the evil body is controlled. Then you no longer have to worry about the accumulation of toxins. After taking a lot of highly toxic medicinal materials, everything is poisonous. They will all become the food of the little medical fairy. Wait a minute, isn't the poisonous body of Vernon similar to Douluo's poisonous backlash? Look at the strings of data that are constantly evolving. Huang Wei's mind suddenly recalled what happened in Douluo continent. Who didn't know how many years ago. Although Douluo is gone. But according to the original work, Douluo survived to the finale. And the other part is poison was taken care of by Tang Xin. One of the most critical is use the soul bone to inject all the poison into it. Then all problems are solved. Take it with some of the elixirs he refined. In the super laboratory analysis screen. This is also a solution. Either the poisonous body of disaster can be completely controlled and used for one's own purposes, or just let it be eliminated directly. The most effective way to eliminate the evil poison is to take it directly. The two jelly grasses of extreme cold and extreme heat. Huang Wei ate it. Huang Wei is in his soul guide, searching for a soul bone suitable for the little medical fairy. It's best to have one that can concentrate its poisonous power into a killing blow. So from now on, all the toxins accumulated in the little medical fairy's body will be absorbed by this soul bone. Always saving it as the strongest attack. As long as the little Dr. Fairy reasons, he can launch it directly. This blow contains extremely terrifying poison. Think of this. Huang Wei planned to give it a try. No matter how. Once you find a way, try it out. Even if it fails in the end. Chapter 216. The little medical fairy has an extra soul bone that can swallow poison. It's good for her too. At least he can still activate his soul bone skills. His mind returned to the divine realm. Look for poisonous properties, especially poisonous animals or grass. Suddenly Huang Wei thought of it again. One is a bloody swan kiss, one is the Biphosphorus Kijuhua. Thinking of these two guys, he returned directly to the vegetable garden in Jialing space. Now all these fairy grasses here have become gods and spirits, and they have all transformed. Huang Wei took a drop of their current strength. Fusing the blood of the bloody swan kiss and the 7-flowered jade phosphorus flower together, plan to cultivate a more poisonous fairy grass. Next, we use the super laboratory. He doesn't plan to cultivate fairy grass this time. Instead, cultivate soul bones directly. The superpower laboratory is called superpower as the name suggests. It's really a superpower. It has everything here. Only you can't imagine that there is no high-tech equipment that does not exist here. It's completely interdimensional. The cultivation machine is at work. Huang Wei then had to wait. As for the parts to be cultivated, you can also choose. Huang Wei thought for a while. Later, the little medical fairy learned the art of alchemy. Then soul power is very important. He chose a humanoid head soul bone template. to cultivate point. After everything is settled point he exited the super laboratory with satisfaction point. Open your eyes again point. It was already dark point at this moment. Below everyone is a huge desert. There is a huge city ahead. It is Stone Desert City. Huang Wei looked at the little medical fairy who was carefully refining the poison. He ordered the amethyst winged lion king, control your aura and find a place where there are no people to land. He didn't want to make too much noise point, because it's simply not necessary. Chapter 260. Hello, Ice Emperor Bibi Dong. Stone Desert City point. The wind and sand drifted by at night point. Stone Desert City is very big point. Many people come here to practice point. There are also many mercenary groups here point. Big and small point. There is a brightly lit inner head point. Regular customers come and go point, because there are also powerful forces controlling it here point. So it wasn't too messy point. At least that's the surface point. What happens in the dark point nobody knows. A man and a woman stepped in here point. The first floor is already full. You to our objective, accommodation or food. A waiter with a white cloth draped over his shoulders welcoming him with a smile on his face point. While talking, everyone in the store glanced at the two people intentionally or unintentionally point. Everyone who can come here has blood on their hands. As for what kind of blood it is, I don't know point. So there are too many people here point. These people are judged by their size point. They are mercenary fighters. Eat. Huang Wei said slightly. Objective, second floor please. 2 guests on the second floor. The waiter greeted him with a smile and shouted to the kitchen behind him point. Went up to the second floor and found a place to sit down point. Under the introduction of the waiter Huang Wei asked the little medical fairy to order it himself point. The little medical fairy nodded very rudely point. I can't help but drool when I see these foods. There was a smile on the waiter's face. The more the little doctor ordered, the happier he became. These are all money. It's weird if you can't be happy. Soon a table of delicious food appeared. The two started eating. Master, do people of your level also need to eat? The little medical fairy asked curiously while eating. Huang Wei said, being a teacher is just to satisfy the appetite. After all, you are practicing from the mouth. Master, this is so delicious. You should also eat some. The little doctor fairy became cheerful now point. After finishing the meal, I found the waiter to pay the bill. Objective, how does it taste? The waiter had a smile on his face point. As the saying goes, don't hit the smiling person point. Huang Wei also smiled slightly and replied, not bad. Then, after objectively eating, do you want to pay the bill? The waiter asked tentatively. He looked at all the plates that had been cleared on the table, very satisfied. At least it proves that the food in therein is delicious. 200 gold coins. The waiter said point. Huang Wei touched his body point. Suddenly, he remembered that he didn't have the money in this world point. The gold coin from before was still there point. He turned to look at the blinking little medical fairy. Smiling slightly, he said, Zana, do you have any money? When the little medical fairy heard this, his face fell instantly. Hearing this, the waiter also turned dark. Not even 200 gold coins is this, because he wants to eat a king's meal? The waiter is ready to call someone point. And the clothes on the young man in front of me are good point. Debts can be paid off point anyway. This guy has no fighting spirit point. He must be a wealthy son of an ordinary person point. Think of this. The waiter's face also returned to a smile point. Dressed like this, you must not be short of money point. Maybe you can make a fortune out of it. Master, I don't have that much money either. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217. The little medical fairy turned over his own ring and took out all the money point. Bits and pieces of coins. If we don't have enough money, what should we do with the waiter? Huang Wei asked point. The waiter was so angry. Not enough money, yet still so confident point. So infuriating. A red fighting spirit suddenly emerged from Zio's body point. Since the guy in front of him is a 9th level fighting spirit, young master can dress so well, so his family must not be short of money. Why don't you use this dress to pay off the debt and ask someone to send you the money? The waiter is indeed a gangster. There are no direct threats in his words, but they are still there. Point this way you want to offend anyone. It can also make people feel very reasonable. I don't have any other family, and I can't give you this dress. Huang Wei's mind shook. Objectivity is so humorous. If that's the case, then please leave what you have on you to pay off the debt. Either use yourself to work to pay off the debt. If you don't have money, why do you need so much food? You must have picked up this dress too. Use it to pay off the debt. The waiter became angry instantly. What those restaurant owners hate the most is those who eat boring meals. Forget it. If you are strong and have a good background. Point I can only swallow my anger, but this one has no background. Point still mortal. Point where did he get the courage to speak? As soon as the words fell. Point he just grabbed Huang Wei's clothes directly. Point he just liked this dress in his opinion. Nothing about Huang Wei was cheap. Once he got it all, he sent it. Point still being a shitty waiter. Every day the shopkeeper calls back and forth. Point very angry. If only the shopkeeper wasn't a fighter he will definitely resist. Pick the persimmons that are soft and pinch them. So he planned to take it out on the person in front of him. Huang Wei smiled slightly and directly grabbed the other person's hand. Point stopped right in front of me. Point spread your fingers. The little medical fairy was very cooperative. Point coins in hand. Point all fell into the opponent's hands. Point then point Huang Wei took her with him. Point disappeared on the dining table. Joyous. Welcome. To visit next time. Waiter at this moment. Come to your senses. Finally realized something. Look at the money in your hand. The voice is stiff. He has 9 levels of fighting spirit. The other party squeezed his hand easily. Point then disappear. Enough to prove it. The other person is not an ordinary person. At the moment he just left, he felt it from the other person. The terrifying fluctuations of fighting spirit radiating out. What kind of ordinary person is this? But a hidden boss. He broke into a cold sweat. Point the body is shaking a little. Point breathed a sigh of relief. Point fortunately, the other party didn't care about him. Point otherwise, he is dead. Ahead is a desert. Point the only in. Point it became the most eye-catching existence. Point just now. Point Huang Wei used his soul power to sweep across Shamo City. Point found the house corresponding to the original work. Point because Bibi Dong is right here. Point walk over, push the door open. Point there is a dim light here. The store has closed. Come back tomorrow. An old voice sounded. Point a rickety old man walked out of it. Point a head of white hair tied up. Point a blue senior citizen's clothing. Point he just glanced at Huang Wei. Ordinary people. A little surprise flashed through the old man's heart. Point look at the little doctor fairy again. Point I felt the fluctuations of fighting spirit. Point currently a 1-star fighter. He also understands why the other party is an ordinary person. Point I dare to come to this place at night. Hello, I Emperor Bibi Dong. Huang Wei has no nonsense. Point let's get right to the point. Point no cover up at all. Point this is strength. Point the rest of them just played like this. No strength or leverage. Point he will definitely die miserably. Point the old man turned around and was about to leave. Point hear these 5 familiar words. The old body was startled. Cold eyes looked directly at Huang Wei. Point it was already very cold at night. Point it's even colder now. Point frost has spread inside the house. Point bang. The door behind them. Point it was blown shut by a wind. Point Huang Wei had nothing to do with it. Point but the little medical fairy folded her arms. His body was trembling. Chapter 218. He was obviously cold. Point after all, Emperor Bibi Dong. Point his cultivation level is that of a fighting emperor, although it has been sealed now. Point just fighting spirit. Point but it is definitely not something that the little medical fairy and a little 1-star warrior can resist. Chapter 261. Breaking Eden. Resurrecting purple pill. Don't pretend to be mysterious with me. Believe it or not, I will kill you right now. The old man looked at Huang Wei. Point the surrounding cold air condensed into ice spikes aimed at Huang Wei. Point just a tap of his fingers. You can take Huang Wei's life. I respect you and call you Haleo. If I don't respect you, I'm an old man. Huang Wei didn't take Bibi Dong's threat seriously at all. Point as soon as the words fell. Point the fingers flicked a little. Point the air vibrates. All the surrounding ice spikes crush and fall to the ground. Point frost on surrounding walls. Point also the same. Point all of a sudden. Point this room. Point warmed up. Point Huang Wei looked at him with a smile. Point the old man's pupils narrowed. Point his complexion changed drastically. Point it becomes cloudy and uncertain. Point extremely horrified. You are not an ordinary person. I never said I was. Who are you? You're Excellency, please stop joking with me. My surname is Huang, a man who can help you return to your peak. In an instant point in this house point there was only the conversation between the old man and Huang Wei point. The old man heard it point, his pupils shrank again point, his eyes were mixed with other emotions, asked, how do you know I'm Bibi? Huang Wei said, I don't know. Just ask and give it a try. If it's not, then try another one. Old man, damn. It pointed, turns out you lied to me. Hold, I was really fooled. So angry. Your method is really casual. The old man's mouth twitched. Then, are you the person I'm looking for? Huang Wei smiled slightly. The old man took a deep look at Huang Wei. Easily break your own ice. It's the kind of absolute suppression. There is no fighting spirit wave on his body. But this moment point, but it gives people a kind of point, the vast abyss, incomprehensible feeling. This person is very powerful. This is his conclusion. But, what? A great old man. Finally, he gave in and nodded point. Bibi calmed down point. He opened his mouth and asked, is what you just said true? Real? Huang Wei nodded. My cultivation has been sealed by Medusa. Either the other party comes over and helps me untie it in person. Either you are a 6th grade alchemist who can refine the 6th grade Podan. Bibi Dong said word for word. It's just potent. If you want it, I can give it to you now. Huang Wei said, neither salty nor lightly. What do I have to give? Bibi Dong was still conscious and did not agree immediately point. He understands that there is absolutely no free lunch in the world point. Huang Wei said, follow me. Hey. Bibi said, you are so strong, you shouldn't be missing me. Then he looked at the little medical fairy. Are you doing it for her? However, Huang Wei's words directly ended the other party's fantasy and said, you are more pleasing to the eye. Don't think too much. Hey. Bibi point, little medical fairy. Bibi Dong thought for a while point, nothing is more urgent now than being able to regain your strength point. So he nodded and said, I agree. He's a smart guy. Huang Wei smiled with satisfaction. Raising his hand, several medicinal materials floated and rotated in the air. A flame appeared on Huang Wei's body. Powerful soul power appeared at this moment. What a terrifying soul power. I touched a little bit, even though it was just the tip of the iceberg point, but it was enough to make Bibi Dong shocked point. Look at Huang Wei holding the condensed medicinal materials in his hand point. He immediately exclaimed, refining and condensing it directly into elixir. This can only be done by a very advanced alchemist. The materials in your hand are also used to refine the 6th grade potent. Bibi Dong was extremely excited at this moment point, because in his opinion point, the man in front of me point, he is really capable point, and he also saw hope of getting rid of this damn cultivation seal. He already thought this was all point, a lifetime goes by like this, but I didn't expect hope to appear now point. Then of course he couldn't let go of this great opportunity. Opportunities are something you have to fight for. Huang Wei remained calm point, just smile. The next second point he saw those medicinal materials gradually condensed into a pill in Huang Wei's hands. Chapter 219. Soon point, the flame disappears. Dan is done. 6th grade elixir. PoE Dan. With a snap of his fingers, the pill had already flown towards Bibi Dong point. Bibi Dong was excited point. Hold it in your hand point, bring it over and take a look point. Make sure you are not dreaming. It's really potent. Really? Gave it to me. Hey. Bibi still feels a little fake point. Huang Wei nodded. Eat it. It's yours. Hey. Bibi couldn't wait anymore point. Swallowed it directly point. The elixir melts in your mouth point. Turn into streams of clear water. Quickly leads to the meridians throughout the body point. A squeaking sound point. It seems like something has been opened in the body point. What followed was an extremely tyrannical wave of fighting spirit point, fierce as a flood point. The seal on Bibi Dong was released point. The cultivation base soared rapidly point. It has been sealed for so many years. I want to get back to my peak point. It's not that simple. The moment his seal was released point, in the Taga desert point somewhere point, Snake tribe point, inside the palace of Queen Medusa point, Medusa, who was sleeping, suddenly opened her eyes narrowed slightly point. A cold and indifferent voice sounded, the seal I placed on that guy has been released. You are lucky. You are lucky. She snorted coldly and didn't bother to pay attention. After saying that, close your eyes again. She wasn't going to pay attention point, because for her Heibodon can be easily crushed to death point. She now, the cultivation level has been reached, 9-star peak fighting emperor, distance from Daozang point just one step away. Heibodon dares to come here point, then you have to bear the second seal point. She could think of it with her toes, the other party wouldn't be so stupid. In an old house point, the aura of cultivation on Heibodon's body continued to expand point. In the end, he directly reached the 9-star peak fighting king. There is only one step away from becoming the Dao Huang. Have I returned to the 9-star peak fighting king? Although it is still far from my peak, it is not bad so far. Feel your power expand. A feeling I had never felt before came back point. Heibodong was extremely excited point. Show a satisfied smile point. Huang Wei's Podan was of a very high grade point, otherwise it would not be possible to return to this level point. Just when Heibodong thought it was over, EB, are you satisfied with this, Huang Wei's voice rang out. What else can we do? I am a fighting emperor after all, and it will take a long time to recover. With this, I'm already satisfied. Heibodong shook his head and said. The corners of Huang Wei's lips raised slightly. I said that I will restore you to your peak. I will do what I say. With that said, Huang Wei raised his fingers again point. Several more ingredients appeared point. The medicinal materials condensed quickly point. Soon another burst of red fragrance filled the air. The little medical fairy and Heibodong couldn't help but swallow their saliva. This is the 5th grade elixir, the purple pill of restoration. Eat it and you will be back to your peak in an instant, Huang Wei said lightly, revealing a hint of pride in his bones. No matter what, I will remember this kindness. Heibodong took it excitedly, and the body was shaking a little. He was so excited. Swallow it in one gulp. Chapter 262. Beat Heibodong violently. To stimulate the effect of the medicine, I'll give you another opportunity. It's up to you whether you can seize it or not. Huang Wei recalled that Heibodong swallowed it in the original work. It was when I was in Qianan Mountain Point under the pressure of Yunshan Point. The cultivation base soared directly from the original 5-star peak fighting emperor to the 9-star peak fighting emperor. This is a really big plug-in point, so he decided to give it a try point in a flash. Heibodong, who was still a little confused for some unknown reason, left the house point. Arriving at the top of the sky point, he immediately let go of his hand. EB. Leo, use all your strength to fight with me. Maybe there will be unexpected surprises with your cultivation, Huang Wei said directly. It just so happens that I also want to experience your master's power. Then please show mercy, sir. Heibodong, who was recovering his cultivation strength, suddenly felt a fighting spirit that he had not felt for many years. The fighting blood in his body was activated again. Point. The power of ice turned into ice wings behind him. Point. It's a fighting spirit transformed into wings. The ice fighting spirit gathered again. Point. His hands became an ice spear. Directly attack Huang Wei with all his strength. He knew that the other party was very powerful. Point. Although he has not yet recovered his full strength and cultivation point, but it has already entered the Daohuang level point. But even so point, he could still feel the unparalleled terrifying pressure on Huang Wei. Point. This coercion is frightening. Point. Huang Wei did not choose to kill the opponent directly. Point. Raise your hand and shake it. Point. The elemental power of various colors condensed crazily. Point. It turned into a long sword in his hand. Chapter 220. He slashed his sword at Heibodong. Heibodong felt the power and terrifying speed of the sword, dodged sideways, but the sword wind still made him feel palpitations. He raised the ice gun in his hand to block it. Bang! The ice gun shattered directly. His body flew out directly. So strong. Just the force of the sword is crushing. What level is this guy in? Heibodong was shocked. However, at this moment, he felt that his restored cultivation continued to grow under this pressure. Point. He seemed to realize something. Point. I also understood what Huang Wei said before. Point. It seems that this soul restoring purple pill is not simple. After realizing the essence, he controlled his body that had lost its center of gravity and flew up again. Huang Wei's figure also appeared. This blow could not make Heibodong surrender directly. It will only further ignite the fighting spirit in his heart, especially when he felt the pressure brought by the pressure of battle. The fighting spirit is even higher. Huang Wei also directly planned to put pressure on Bibi Dong. This is the case in the original work. The little medical fairy ran out of the house. I don't know where the two of them went. I heard a faint sound of fighting coming from the sky. So he raised his head and looked. She saw the figure of her cheap master Huang Wei flashing. Disappear in place. The next scene is a bit cruel. Bang 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 bang. This is not a battle. It was a one-sided beating. Bibi Dong was beaten from beginning to end by Huang Wei. Beat from tail to head. Extremely miserable. Blood flowed. There is no respect for the elderly at all. Bibi Dong didn't even say a word begging for mercy. Another punch and kick. But every attack from Huang Wei. They are all very controlled. Although Bibi Dong looks green and red now. But the injuries inside the body were all minor and not serious. Moreover, Huang Wei also completely opened up many meridians and acupuncture points on his body. He has been sealed for so long. The suppressed fighting spirit also lasts for a very long time. Now after such a violent beating. Then it can be completely opened up. Achieve steady improvement. All the fighting skills summoned by Bibi Dong were directly broken. Finally, the whole person fell to the ground like a meteor. Loud bang. The entire stone desert city was shaken. What's going on? Some mercenaries who were close to Bibi Dong were attracted by the sudden shaking of the earth. But the source could not be found. In the dark. Even dust cannot be seen from a distance. They are no exception. It's an illusion. One of them said. It's impossible. The vibration just happened. Was there? It seems to be over there. Why don't you go and take a look? One person pointed in a direction and said. They just touched it directly on the sky. Huang Wei stared down. The dark night did not blind him. His eyes saw very clearly. At this moment, Bibi Dong was just blocking the way below. But he can feel it. Bibi Dong's current cultivation level. Just like in the original work. Promoted to the 9-star peak fighting emperor, Xuanwu. Blessing, Huang. When he raised his hand for a moment. A Xuanwu towering above the sky floated out of the sky. Dotted green lights dropped towards Bibi Dong, who couldn't get up. This scene happened to be seen by the mercenaries, who rushed over and hid behind the mountain. Oh my god, what is that? It's so big. What kind of fighting skill is this? It seems that the source of the sound just now came from here. None of that is the point. The point is, look, why is that guy floating in the sky? Hiss. Oh my god, I heard that only the Dao Wang's fighting spirit can fly into the sky. Could it be that the person in front of me is a strong man at the level of Dao Wang? There was a big battle here just now. Look, there's a figure lying in the pit. Those green lights are falling towards him. This guy has no wings. It's a bit like walking on air. I heard that only the legendary Daozang warriors can walk in the air. One word wakes up the dreamer. As soon as this person said this, it instantly made everyone's scalp numb. By this time, Xuanwu had disappeared. Instead, Huang Wei landed. Huang Wei looked at Bibi Dong. Bibi Dong woke up from his coma. Looking at Huang Wei in front of him. Recalling the previous scene of being beaten and completely tortured. His whole body was filled with panic from the depths of his soul. This guy in front of me is so powerful. He is no match at all. The opponent is Daozang. Definitely Daozang. Bibi Dong guy who thought so. The pupils become more dilated. Don't look at me. Just feel your state. This is the opportunity I have given you. Huang Wei said, if I hadn't done it myself just now, the efficacy of the resurrection purple pill would not have been fully exerted, and you would have had no choice but to return to your previous cultivation level. Now, after being trained by me personally, I have completely activated the other fighting spirit that you have suppressed for so many years, and you are back to your original state together. So, now you are a 9-star peak fighting emperor. Huang Wei's words fell into Bibi Dong's ears very clearly, although Bibi Dong was in pain from the scene just now. But the pleasure brought by the upgrade instantly overwhelmed the painful scene just now. Chapter 221. The whole person's face became even more surprised. He is truly the 9-star peak fighting emperor. We are only one step away from Daozang. Bibi Dong took a breath of air. He never expected that the surprise would come so suddenly. Chapter 263. Ice God, Medusa of the Snake Tribe. Thank you, sir. Bibi Dong took a deep breath and was sincerely grateful. Then he said, "My lord, may I ask, what is your cultivation level?" After being tortured once, he became even more curious about Huang Wei's cultivation. Daozan, Huang Wei told him, "Daozan, this is a realm above Daozang. No wonder it's so scary. I won't lose unfairly. I won't lose unfairly." Bibi Dong exclaimed. "I never thought that I would be able to see Daozan in my lifetime. And it's still so close. A strong man at the level of Daozan. When he went to practice when he was young. I happened to pass by a place and saw a Daozan level battle far away. The gorgeous and terrifying fighting skills were unleashed. Even now the memory is still fresh in his mind. A lifetime has passed like this unexpectedly. Now there is a chance for a reversal." Due to the appearance of the opponent's Daozan, Huang Wei entered the house again. Searching the room for the broken pictures. These residual pictures were drawn by me while traveling in the Taga Desert over the years. There is also the whereabouts of the strange fire in these residual pictures. Bibi Dong said. Huang Wei said, "Old Hey, bring me all the remaining pictures." Bibi Dong nodded. When he entered the room, he also brought over the thing that he had treasured for many years. Huang Wei checked quickly. Finally I found the one with Kinglian Earth Heart Fire. There is also only half of the Pure Lotus Demon Fire. Merge the two together. It's a pity that there are still a few more pictures to complete. But the location of Kinglian's inner fire. Huang Wei cooperates with the memory in the original work. We can already roughly determine where it is. If nothing else happens, it should be at Medusa's place. The Kinglian Earth Core Fire is no longer in the cave. He put these scraps away. He said to Bibi Dong with satisfaction, "As a follower of me, I will naturally not be stingy. This is life energy, which can help you return to your youth and increase your lifespan. The young you, combined with your current cultivation, is your true peak state." Huang Wei said lightly. "Lift your finger slightly." A green light condensed. It is the god level Zuanwu life crossing. The light shot into Bibi Dong's body. The whole person was enveloped in light. Immediately afterwards, his hair began to turn from white to black. The wrinkled and old face regained its youthful air, become younger and more energetic. The whole person's waist is also straightened. This state is nothing less than a new life. I feel reborn. I've never felt so comfortable. The aura on Bibi Dong's body soared even more powerfully. However, he still stayed at the 9-star peak. Dao Huang, unable to cross the path of breaking the emperor and becoming a sect. It's not over yet. There is another opportunity for you. When Bibi Dong was happy, Huang Wei's soul had entered the center of the god realm. Looking for a suitable god position for Bibi Dong. Finally, I happened to find a god who also belongs to the elemental gods and has some connections with the water god and the sea god. Name, Ice God. Ice cannot exist without water. When the ice is scratched off, it becomes water. But in a sense, the ice god is actually the water god. But the positions of gods are independent. More. Bibi Dong was stunned. The next moment, he saw something emitting ice blue appearing in Huang Wei's hand. The word ice is displayed on it. This is a power that is unfamiliar to you. It's called the seat of a god. This is a god named Ice God, and as long as you pass the test, you can inherit the position of Ice God, and your cultivation will be greatly improved in the future. Huang Wei said. Hearing this, Bibi Dong was extremely excited. Breathing also became rapid. Soon a strange glacier world appeared in his mind. How comfortable I felt in this glacier, it's like coming home. The ice god is now also a first level deity. The center of the divine world is Huang Wei. The stronger Huang Wei's cultivation level is, the stronger the center of the god realm will be. Those gods bound to the center of the divine world will also be directly improved. So next second, the 9 ice god tests fell directly into Bibi Dong's mind. Now the other party can't wait to complete all the exams immediately. To obtain this mysterious ice god's power, it must be very tyrannical. The content of the first test is to defeat the former opponent Medusa. The reward is unknown. Upon hearing this mission, Bibi Dong was stunned for a moment. Recall the horror of Medusa. But when I think about myself now. He immediately looked in the direction of the snake people. He sneered. Medusa, just wait. I'm here to take revenge. Early the next morning. In the great desert of Tagal. A huge amethyst-winged lion king flew high in the sky. Below him is a group of tribes. It is the snake people. I felt that the sky suddenly turned dark. The expressions of all the snake people in the snake people clan changed. Because they felt a very terrifying force. When I looked up, I was almost frightened to death. Amethyst Winged Lion King. Why did this beast appear in the Taiga Desert? The snake people on guard and in the city were all frightened. This thing was probably just passing by. But the other party is now suspended in midair. It seems that he has no intention of leaving. Go and report to the queen. At this time, 3 figures appeared from the back of the Amethyst Winged Lion King. Bibi Dong looked comfortable. Chapter 222. I never thought I would be able to ride on the Amethyst Winged Lion King in my lifetime. This is really thanks to the fighting master Huang Wei. Walking in the air. This is Dao Zhang, a strong man from the Dao sect, is coming to the snake tribe. All the snake people looked at Huang Wei. Gasp. The word Dao Zhang strongman is so terrifying appeared in their minds one after another. Several captains of the snake tribe immediately turned into wings and flew up. These snake people are all fighting kings. Seeing Huang and Wei, the expressions of the 3 people changed drastically. Dao Zhang, really Dao Zhang, especially when his eyes were fixed on Huang Wei. The other party has no wings, walk easily on the air. It's absolutely impossible that Dao Zhang can't run away. Mighty Dao Zhang, I wonder why you came to our snake tribe. At this time, several elders flew out from the depths of the snake tribe. Quickly arrived in front of several captains apart from Medusa. They are the strongest old men. They will never allow anyone to destroy the snake people. But I didn't expect that the person coming this time would be a Dao Zhang. And beside Dao Zhang, since he is a fighting emperor, the aura exuded by that Dao Huang. Only Queen Medusa can rival it. Could it be the same as Queen Medusa? Are they all the cultivation of a 9-star peak fighting emperor? The elder's pupils shrank. Medusa, who was far away in the palace, also flew out at this time. Your Excellency, Dao Zhang came to our snake tribe. I wonder what the purpose is? You might as well tell me. Medusa's voice was still so cold. Huang Wei didn't seem to be afraid because he was a Dao Zhang. Still in a hurry. The worst thing is that they will die together. Who is afraid of whom? Sorry to bother you. I'm here mainly for 2 things. Looking at Medusa with the head of a human and the body of a snake in front of her. Huang Wei smiled slightly and said. Chapter 264. Courtesy before fighting. Compromise under strength. Medusa heard this and said in a cold voice, what 2 things, Huang? Wei said, the first thing I want is the Kinglian Earth Core Fire and Strange Fire in your palace. How do you know that the Kinglian Earth Core Fire is here with me? Medusa frowned and turned to look at the other snake people. If it weren't for understanding the character of these tribesmen. In addition, her carrying Kinglian Earth Core Fire back was a very confidential matter. Only a few elders knew. Otherwise, they will suspect that there is a traitor in the clan. But she knew that some elders were not very good tempered. But I will definitely not betray her. So how does the person in front of me know Kinglians in a fire is here with her? Could it be because it's in the valley? Are there other little mice hiding during the transportation? This is unlikely. But it's not necessarily none. The second possibility is she may have left behind the scales in the lotus platform under the Kinglian Earth Core Fire. The third is this guy can find her scent in the air. Hear the words Huang Wei muttered in his heart. I have read the original work. But he won't say it. But he said lightly, I have a way to know. Although this answer was not what she wanted. And I feel a little angry. But in the face of strength. There was no time when she lost her temper because there is the entire snake clan behind her. The young man next to the young man in front of him looked familiar. Could it be Heibodon's son? Impossible. The peak of the 9-star fighting emperor. Absolutely impossible. She was very confused. But if the fight starts later, it was just this person that stuck with her. This young man can easily massacre the entire snake tribe. Not to mention, if the person who stopped her was this young man. Then the problem becomes even bigger. And there is an Amethyst Winged Lion King who is also the 9-star peak fighting emperor in the sky. This is totally worthless. The death of the snake people is certain. What good do I do? Queen Medusa took a breath and said, I can refine a transformation pill for you, as well as a breaking sect pill. Of course, you can also choose to implement your original life-threatening plan with my help. Huang Wei's words shocked everyone. You No, Medusa. And several elders' pupils shrank. Who is this young man in front of me, since you know everything? Huang Wei said slightly. Exotic fire is the nemesis of Warcraft, and you can't absorb it. If you don't risk upgrading the evolution of that tiny bloodline to break through the Daozang, what will it be? So, please choose the second type. Several elders said through gritted teeth. At the same time, his face was extremely excited. Before, I really couldn't think of a way to try this method of committing suicide with a success rate of less than 1%. Increase your bloodline level and enter the Daozang realm. Now there are better options. So several elders decisively chose this. There is no danger in this. The strength of the opponent. If you are an unreasonable person, just take action. I want the transformation pill and the Piozang pill now. Medusa seemed to be making a final struggle in her eyes, and then said, no. Huang Wei shook his head. Medusa immediately sneered. Are you kidding us? Although we are not as strong as you, we are going to fight tooth and nail, and we are not afraid. Ah. You threatening me, Huang? Wei was immediately amused. He is the God Emperor. When have you ever been threatened by the following crimes? His eyes narrowed. An ancient divine mountain pressure. Instantly pressed on Medusa and others. When he controls the intensity. Didn't crush it to death. Everyone's expressions changed drastically. The snake people below were lying directly on the ground. The flying Daowang and Medusa broke out in cold sweat. His face was painful and ferocious, and his teeth were gritted. Chapter 223. The body was trembling and falling. It seems like he is under some kind of overload of pressure. There is obviously nothing on them. Breathing becomes difficult. Medusa even felt her brush with death. So strong. This, what power is it true that Daozang can send it out? Medusa and several fighting kings suddenly looked horrified. At this moment, I finally realized their insignificance. Now, do you know my kindness? I will kill you like ants, without any negotiation. Huang Wei's voice became cold. Now, as long as he has a thought, everyone here will burst into blood. You are not a Daozang. How could a Daozang be so scary? What level are you at? Medusa used all her strength, opening up every tiny gap in the resistance area, and circulated her fighting energy at extremely high speeds. Then he took a breath, and asked with trembling fear. In the face of absolute strength, the queen's momentum was gone. You said it's me. Are you deaf? Huang Wei said indifferently. The little medical fairy said, my master is a strong warrior. To be honest, I still feel a little pity for the snake people in front of me. What? Daozang? Everyone gasped. He looked at Huang Wei in even more horror than when he found out it was Daozang. The power in them was gone. Your Excellency Daozang, we have offended you. Please forgive me. Several elders and Medusa immediately lowered their posture and apologized. Daozang surpassed Daozang. Even Daozang is a luxury for them here. Others are Daozang. Medusa originally thought that, as long as she could break through Daozang, she could compete with the young man in front of her. But everything was wrong. So naive. This is also a fluke in her heart. If Medusa is willing to follow me, I can also refine a pill for you to help your bloodline evolve, and at the same time find a habitat that is completely suitable for the life of your snake people. Huang Wei's voice rang again. Hearing this, all the snake people became excited, because what they lack most is habitat. But in the end we need to look at the elders and the queen. The elders' excitement could not be concealed. Being able to tie up a Daozang is not a good idea for them, the snake tribe, to take off directly. We do. The elder immediately looked at each other and said. Medusa's eyes flashed with a look of struggle for a few seconds, let out a final sigh. I planned in my heart to wait until she grows up before talking about it. He also nodded. If your excellency Daozang does not break his promise, Medusa is willing to follow you. These are the materials for the transformation pill, the sect breaking pill and the bloodline sublimation pill. You can find as many as you want. Huang Wei nodded when he heard this. With a wave of her hand, a parchment scroll appeared in Medusa's hand. You will all benefit then. As soon as these words came out, it made people even more excited. The Chengruo of the strong man. Yes, we will do our best to get it together. The elder immediately took it over and looked at it. They happened to have a few of them. get even more excited. When Queen Medusa saw this, she became indifferent. This is the way the world is. And Daozan was too tempting to her. Are these the two things your excellency? Daozan said. Medusa asked. No. The second thing, about the person next to me. He is an old acquaintance of yours. Hey. Bodong. Chapter 265. The first test of the ice god is completed. Half-step Daozang. What are you? Hey Bodong. The most shocking one was Medusa. Your strength is back. Why are you getting younger? Medusa's beautiful eyes stared intently at the young man in blue clothes in front of her. Bibi Dong snorted coldly and said, thanks to his majesty's gift, I, Bibi Dong, have been reborn. Medusa, fight me. Now that we are on the same level, we only care about victory or defeat, not life or death. The aura of the 9-star peak Dao Huang spreads around Bibi Dong. The surrounding ice power condensed, and on his forehead, the word ice flashed blue, making him look even more charming. He waved his hands violently. An Ice King spear condensed from extreme ice appears. Now he has completely forgotten the previous scene of being violently tortured by Huang Wei. After all, the person in front of me is of the same level. Now he feels that even a 1-star Daozan can fight. Let alone an old rival at the same level. Because of the mission of Ice God 9 tests, he must win this battle. Bibi Dong's words had already expressed all their doubts and doubts. Bibi Dong can have everything it has today. It's all the work of this powerful and mysterious Daozan in front of me. It seems that the person in front of me is really not simple. Or it's an ability that only Daozan has. After all, they have never become Daozan. I have never seen Daozan. So I dare not say no. Medusa is not afraid of Bibi Dong. Because they are in the same realm. And her eyes looked at Huang Wei. Seems to be asking for advice. Huang Wei nodded. That's it. After a pause, he added, you go to the highest sky and fight. Regardless of victory or defeat, regardless of life or death, you are all my followers. Start now. Medusa said. Just use this Bibi Dong to vent your anger. She also wanted to see how powerful Bibi Dong was after being reborn with the help of the powerful Daozan. Huang Wei said, it's time to start. The rest of you are not allowed to interfere. I have set up a blockade around me. The noise happening here will not be known to the rest of the people. The elders and others nodded. They also wanted to see the battle at the peak of the 9-star Dao Huang. This is a very rare opportunity. In some aspects, one can improve one's cultivation. Come on, Medusa. Fight me. Bibi Dong shouted loudly. The king welcomes you. Medusa also transformed her fighting spirit into wings for a moment. Two figures, one blue and one red, quickly rushed into the high sky. A vigorous confrontation started right from the beginning. Boom boom boom. Bang 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 bang. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224. Huang Wei has no interest in fighting at this level. My dear, go in and get the strange fire first. Prepare the materials quickly. After saying these words, the whole figure disappeared in front of the snake human race. It's so high that it would be difficult for us to see it. Why don't we look for the materials first? His Holiness just said that we will also benefit from finding it, but I don't know if it will improve our cultivation. It would be great if I could be promoted to Dao Huang. Several fighting kings clucked their tongues in anticipation. So they turned around and started searching separately. Inside the palace of Queen Medusa. Huang Wei's figure appeared here. In front of him was a pool of extremely cold water. The water here must be one of the materials that helps Xiao Yan swallow the strange fire. Ice Spirit Cold Spring. Maybe it will be useful in the future. Thinking of this, he gently raised his fingers, got a drop and collected it. Look in another direction. There was a blue lotus fire floating in that place. It is the Kinglian Earth Core fire that ranks 19th on the strange fire list. Huang Wei raised his hand and tried to touch it. Although Kinglian Earth Core fire ranks low, but this should only be a ranking of strength. Every strange fire is an existence cultivated between heaven and earth. Each flower has unique and independent abilities. In some areas it is an absolute professional level. And the one in front of me is not the original fire either. The original fire was in the strange fire square in Tuo's ancient emperor's cave. When the hand touches Huang Wei, he felt a little warmth. It seems that his physique is still very strong. But Xuanwu's heart came out. The strange fire was suppressed in an instant. No amount of burning can break this basalt shell. In this way, King Lian's inner fire was wrapped up by Xuanwu's heart. Brought into Huang Wei's body. This time he didn't choose to eat it alive. After all, strange fire is not comparable to animal fire. Xuanwu heart can directly help him refine it. The next step is to wait. He looked inside the heart of Xuanwu. Has a tyrannical force. King Lian's inner fire is being suppressed. Let it be a fire. Mysterious rune power hovers around the alien fire. After everything was settled, Huang Wei left the palace. Only a short time has passed until now. The little medical fairy has been following him and was shocked when he entered here. To her, a little girl who has never seen the world. Everything in Medusa's palace is extremely rare and precious. Whenever I see something I like, I want to touch it. But she knew these belonged to Medusa, not hers. So just watch and touch. Master, who do you think will win in the battle outside? The little medical fairy blinked and asked. Now they have come out to the palace. The people of the snake tribe all raised their heads and looked at the sky. It's fast though. Only two beams of light, one blue and one red, could be seen constantly colliding. Occasionally it disappears into the clouds. Cannot see clearly. But that doesn't stop them from liking it. Above the sky, Heibodon was extremely happy after the fierce battle with Medusa. Full of fighting spirit, having been brutally tortured by Huang Wei before. He couldn't realize how powerful he was. That's why he felt that Medusa was actually just like that. After all, he had been beaten violently by someone from a higher latitude. When you fight against someone of the same level again, you will feel like you are an adult. Medusa's eyes were shining brightly as she continued to clash with Heibodon for dozens of rounds. I didn't expect that Heibodon hadn't been seen for so many years. It's so powerful now. Her expression suddenly became serious. Dance of Medusa. Well done, Xuan. Bing Long Xiang. Heibodon shouted excitedly. He directly used his most famous stunt. Ho. Ho ho. 1. Huge ice dragon after another with a chilling air of ice. Encounter with Medusa's giant Medusa shadow. Boom. There were loud explosions one after another. Terrifying power surged out. Above the sky, a red flame colored figure fell from the sky. It is the defeated Medusa. Just at this moment, the voice of the ice god rang in Heibodong's mind. The first test of the ice god, complete by defeating Medusa. Increase ice affinity by 20%. Get the center of the ice circle. Ice circle center fusion. In an instant, a divine light appeared on Heibodong. Ha! A loud cry came from his mouth. The aura on his body expanded rapidly. At this moment, a hint of Daozang power appeared in Heibodong. But it's not the real Daozang, but half-step Daozang. As long as you take the broken sect pill, you will definitely become a sect. Chapter 266 Xuanji Burning Technique. 2-star Daozang. This is the power of Daozang. Although it is only a small amount, it is enough to make me understand how terrifying this realm is. No, I'm not a real Daozang now. It's just sandwiched between the peak Daohuang and the Daozang. It should be regarded as a half-step Daozang. Hey. Bodong felt excited as he felt a trace of Daozang power mixed with his own ice power. As long as there is a conflict with Zhang, it is not a simple matter, although it is only half step to Daozang. But he could feel the tyranny of his own power. It's nothing compared to just now. If you are fighting Medusa. There will definitely not be the sluggishness just now. It must be a quick victory. Achieve a straight line crushing effect. On the realm. Everyone below was horrified. Feel this tyrannical force. The elders who were looking for medicinal materials within the snake tribe all had expressions on their faces. Chapter 225. Shocked. Is this the power of Daozang that Heibodong broke through? I finally understand why your majesty asked him to fight the queen. It is probably to pave the way for this breakthrough. The great elder understood instantly. As soon as these words came out, the other elders nodded in approval. They continued to search for items on the list. Outside, Haybodong slowly landed. He looked excited at this moment. After he just learned about the Ice Circle Center, he found that he had not yet fully digested the power. If he can digest them all, he can step into the 1-star Daozang. What you improve by yourself is definitely more valuable than what you can improve by taking medicine. The combat effectiveness and foundation are very solid. He planned to digest it well. In this way, there is no need for your majesty to waste a Daozang pill. After all, materials are hard to find. Medusa, we will be our own from now on. Haybodong looked at Medusa, who looked depressed, and said. Medusa had a cold face as always, snorted, and then set her sights in the direction of the palace. Just now, she had sensed that the Kinglian Earth Heart Fire aura that originally existed in the palace had disappeared. I didn't expect it to be absorbed so quickly, she murmured, with a shocked face and shocked tone. As a 9-star peak fighting emperor, she had personally touched the inner fire of Kinglian. I know how terrifying this flame is. She never thought about refining Kinglian's inner fire in the first place. Huang Wei said, it is absolutely impossible to absorb Warcraft. It is undoubtedly seeking death. She just wants to evolve her bloodline and give it a try. There may be a chance to step into Daozang. It's good now. Because of Kinglian's inner fire, it also brought her a safe promotion opportunity. If a strong man at the level of Daozang can speak his mind, he will never break his promise. The next step is to wait. At this time, a beam of light shot out from inside Huang Wei's figure appeared in front of them. At this moment, Huang Wei's aura was slightly exposed. It's very scary. Those who are careful will notice. Now Huang Wei is no longer a 1-star Daozang, but the 2-star Daozang improved 1 level. Originally, his cultivation level was already close to rising to 2 stars now, with the help of Kinglian's Earth Core Fire and various powerful methods in the body. Breakthroughs are just a common thing, your majesty. Everyone saluted him. Yeah. Huang Wei nodded. Old hey, congratulations on your entry into the half-step Daozang. Unfortunately, you are still 1 step away from the real Daozang. Just wait until I refine a sect-breaking pill for you. Huang Wei turned his attention to Haybodong, and he saw through the opponent's half-step Daozang cultivation. This pity was what he said sincerely. It seems that after the compatibility of the first level gods, it is still a bit too low. He needs to improve his cultivation quickly. Then the center of the god realm will also be improved. So does the godhead. At that time, all first level gods will become god kings. The god king is even more powerful, even reaching the god emperor. Haybodong immediately raised his hand and said, Your Majesty, after I just completed the test, I got a round heart of ice. After I completely refine all my power, I can break through Daozang in 1 fell swoop, so my Daozang pill can be used free of charge. Got it. That's very good. Hearing this, Huang Wei nodded. Read from the center of the divine world. The ice god does have a center of ice. It can also be regarded as a special deity of the ice god. How exactly? He didn't know. As long as it brings benefits to Haybodong, it is enough. Your Majesty, have you absorbed the inner fire of the Green Lotus? Although Medusa had guessed a lot, she still wanted to confirm. Huang Wei nodded. That strange fire is only ranked 19th, and its power is not enough in front of me. As he spoke, he slowly raised his hand. A pinch. A ball of blue flame came out. It is Kinglian's heart fire. And, as the absorption of Kinglian's earth core fire was completed. Fenju was directly promoted from the Huang level to the primary level of the Zuan level. Really? Medusa was very familiar with this breath of fire. Medusa asked respectfully, Your Majesty, when will my elixir be available? I can't wait. Huang Wei said, whenever your people find the materials, you will be able to break through. We don't have all the materials on the list, and some of them have never been heard of or seen. When Medusa heard this, she suddenly looked bitter and said, The implication is that she also wants Huang Wei to help her find it. Of course she will take action to find it herself. But Daoqi continent is so big. A clueless search. It's completely like finding a needle in a haystack. Huang Wei said, as a living being, your mind cannot be too rigid. If you can't find such an item, then try to find other items to replace it. But it's not your fault. You must not be alchemists. It's normal not to know these things. After all, you don't know the properties of medicine. I don't have the medicinal materials you mentioned, but I have other medicinal materials that can replace them. You can wait with peace of mind. As my subordinate, I will definitely not let you suffer. Huang Wei's voice is very clean, but it has a magical charm that can make people believe in it calmly. Medusa nodded. Thank you, Your Majesty. Medusa understands. Soon, several figures flew out from the snake people again. The people who came were none other than the elders who had gone to collect medicinal materials. Their faces were somewhat bitter, because all the medicinal materials that can be found have been found. The rest have never been heard of at all. I haven't even heard of it, so naturally I won't have it. Your Majesty, these are the medicinal materials we can find. I have never heard of or seen the others. Several elders said bitterly and offered medicinal materials with both hands. Huang Wei waved his hand, and all the medicinal materials flew towards him under the force of gravity. It doesn't matter, just watch me next. Huang Wei first took a drop of the blood of these medicinal materials and put it into the super laboratory for mass reproduction. Then he can wholesale do Daozang pill, transformation pill, and bloodline evolution pill. In addition, all the medicinal materials he collected will be backed up in the super laboratory. After refining it once, there is no need to refining it a second time. Because it can be wholesaled. Chapter 267. 3 elixirs are made. Ice sect Bibi Dong. Only 3 colors of flames appeared in Huang Wei's hands. He planned to show off his skills in front of these people. Shock these people. He can also show off his absolutely superb alchemy skills. 3 flames. 3 strange fires. This time, Medusa and others, including Bibi Dong, were shocked. It's great to have a strange fire in one person. But since this guy has 3 in total, no, it has the aura of the amethyst winged lion king on it. One of them is not a strange fire, but a beast fire. In addition, there is another flower with a familiar smell. It seems to be the dragon beast in the palace. It should be 2 beast fires and 1 strange fire. Finally, they came to the final answer. Even that was a shock. My analytical skills are very good. You got the answer right. Huang Wei said. This was his first time trying 3 kinds of flames to refine elixir together. Maybe there will be unexpected gains. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.